in Cleveland a few years back. Two openings left. The Vegas Raiders and the Arizona Cardinals are the final two teams that will make 10 new coaches in pro football, which ties a record for coaching turnaround in the NFL. We'll get to the latest in the world of college football, including a conversation that I was having with Sean O'Connell during Crosstalk about Utah BYU and the game next year and what it's up against and whether or not the Big 12 needs to just figure out a way to get this game back to be the final game of the season, which has always been my preference. I think a lot of people are on board with that. So we'll get into the latest. The Senior Bowl is tonight. The Senior Bowl is today. So a lot of prospective NFL, draft picks, college football players trying to kind of put a finishing touch on their resume as we move into the portion of the NFL calendar where draft will be very topical. The NBA trade deadline is 9 days away, and Giannis apparently might be traded. So Shams Charania reporting today that Giannis and his agent have communicated with Milwaukee that they are now open to deals. Now, what is that going to look like? We'll get into some of the stuff on the show. I don't know that the Jazz are really topical when it comes to any of these trade conversations. The Jazz played a basketball game last night. The Clippers were in town, and Jazz played pretty tough for the first half. The Clippers ran away from them in the third, 36-20, and they ended up winning the basketball game. Stephen Wardell Curry is in our market right now as the Jazz will welcome in the Golden State Warriors tonight, the second half of a back-to-back. The Utah Mammoth held on against the defending Stanley Cup champs last night for a 4-3 win. So we'll get to some of that on the show today. Of course, the college basketball landscape. Utah and BYU back in action coming up on Saturday. And Oklahoma State is in town, and they're going to take on the Utes. BYU travels to Kansas looking for that signature win, kind of the only thing they don't have on their resume as of right now. And another golfer has decided to leave Live Golf and return to the PGA Tour. I don't know that anybody is happy when Patrick Reed says he wants to hang out with them, but if you're a PGA golfer, you're going to have to deal with Patrick Reed, who's back as a good player, but a total pain in the ass. So we kind of like to follow some of this stuff to see if Live Golf at some point will just kind of go away or exist in a space of irrelevance, which is kind of where it's existed, even though it's had some of the signature names. So jam-packed show, Wednesday afternoon style. Good to have you with us. As I referenced, Kurt Schmidt will join us right out of the gates today. We'll move over to Tim McMahon, Ban McMahon, our buddy from ESPN, to talk Jazz and trade deadline. TV voice of the Utah Jazz, Craig Bolerjack, is our guest later on, and we'll bounce around and do some college and pro football with Tony Parks in the 4 o'clock hour of the show today. Kurt Schmidt, Tim McMahon, Craig Bolerjack, Tony Parks, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, that guy, Porter Larson. After corralling a couple of wild animals in the studio during Crosstalk, I've got to admit I'm a little bit fatigued already, even though we've got 4 hours of radio to do.
Yeah, and those were just dogs. I'd like to see you, out in the field. I'd like to see you, I don't know, maybe on the back of a horse with a rope.
What do they call the thing where you rope the little dude, the little cattle? What do you call that? Roping?
I mean,
what do you call
tie
it?
down? Tie down's where you hop off and then you tie it. The Jared Allen celebration. That's a little tie down.
That you call it a tie down?
Tie down roping. That's the official term.
That's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Like somebody who's high level at that and can do it really quickly.
Yeah, those guys are legit athletes.
Yeah, it's very cool. But no, I will not be. I'm not going to get into cattle riding horses and roping in my late 40s, Porter. It's not happening.
Okay. I was just, it brought it to mind while you and Sean were literally wrangling one normal dog and one dog that is the size of a cow.
What is the term for somebody who does all of that? Like Colton Swan is a defensive coordinator, but he's also, what do you call him?
A cowboy.
Just a cowboy?
I mean, the term cowboy is interesting because if you call yourself a cowboy, but you
just get a hat in Park City for Sundance?
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to draw the ire of many who, maybe they live out in the country or they have a truck. But if you're not rustling cows, if you're not out working with cows, that's the definition there.
But what if you're a single girl that just paid $750 for a cowboy hat so you can post a picture on Instagram as if you actually are, in that space?
Urban cowgirl, I guess.
Is that what they call it?
Something of the sort.
I look good in a cowboy hat. Tell you that much.
You can pull it off.
Yeah. 10-gallon, is that what they call it?
That's a little big.
I don't really have a lot of knowledge. Anyway, how's your Wednesday? You good?
Wednesday's good. Wednesday's good. Halfway through the week, as we know, and plenty to get to, as you mentioned, on several different fronts. Soccer, football, hoops, whatever you want to get to. Trade deadline looming. There's a lot of kind of random things to broach today.
And obviously Super Bowl 60, just a matter of weeks away. It's the final football game of the season. But as I referenced, for you RSL fans that have been waiting for movement, you got it. We've got, I believe, 6 new players on the way that hopefully will be here before opening day. So we'll chat with Kurt Schmidt right out of the gates today on a Wednesday. But before we do that, courtesy of our good friends at Prize Picks, it is time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 with Prize Picks.
Big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Find your community on Prize Picks with the new social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends, copy lineups from winners with a single click, copy lineups you like, or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right. Anonymity is a cloak for cowardice. All right. So this Bill Belichick story has been pretty fascinating. It broke, I think, as Smitty was on the show yesterday. The alert came across just the ticker that Bill Belichick had not been voted in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame on his first try. And the issue, as I've kind of followed this news cycle, first of all, I've learned a lot about the process that goes into determining who will be in the Hall of Fame. And there are some things that have changed as of late. But Belichick, who has 8 Super Bowl rings, was 6-2 as a head coach in a Super Bowl, won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants as a coordinator, needed 40 of 50 votes, as I understand it. And as I said, anonymity is a cloak for cowardice. Like, if you are one of those people that is posting on social media under an anonymous account, you are a coward. The internet is where cowards go to feel brave, and you're part of the problem. And the deal here is that nobody is coming forward to admit that they were one of the people that didn't vote for Belichick. There was a little bit of a kind of loose report about Bill Polian, who used to run the Colts and was a longtime executive in the NFL and one of the most respected football people really out there. My understanding is he came out and said he was not one of the, I think it's 10 or 11 people that did not vote for Belichick as it pertains to his potential to get into the Hall of Fame the first time, first ballot Hall of Famer. All right, nobody is willing to come forward to lay out the criteria. First of all, nobody's willing to come forward to raise their hand and say, I was one of the people that didn't vote. Now, if that's happened, I have not seen it yet, and I've been looking for it pretty much all day. And attendant to it, because nobody has the courage to actually come out and say they were one of the people that didn't vote for him, we're left to try to reach for answers. A lot of people have talked about Spygate. You know, the Patriots certainly, Deflategate, a lot of gates, as we know, Deflategate, Spygate, whatever it is. The Patriots were certainly caught red-handed cheating quite a bit. Now, just because you are caught doesn't mean you're the only ones who are doing it. You're the ones that probably just weren't as good at it. And ultimately, because they were just awesome for so long, there were probably more eyes on them to figure out exactly what the formula was for this dynasty. It turns out the majority of the formula was the guy who wore 12 and who was under center. Because ultimately, Belichick won 77% of his games with Tom Brady as his quarterback. He won about 44% of his games without Brady, okay? So is there something there where the Hall of Fame voters are holding Belichick accountable as a kind of an average, mediocre coach without his quarterback? I don't know, because that ultimately seems silly. No great coach is ever existed without having great players. It's like the line Smitty uses all the time back in 1988 when the Jazz were playing the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs, or excuse me, yeah, it was the first round. It was like the Jazz kind of arrival on the national scene. John and Carl had been starting together for a few years. Big Mark, Bobby Hansen, those great Jazz teams in the 80s. And they took the Lakers to 7 games. And this was the Showtime Lakers, the Pat Riley Lakers. And when Pat Riley was asked before Game 7 about whether or not he was confident in his team to win, he said yes. And they said, why? And he said, well, I have Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And sure enough, they won. There's no great coach without great players. So if you're holding Belichick accountable for his non-Brady stretch, that seems like a big-time reach to me, all right? Bottom line is 8 Super Bowls, 8 Super Bowl rings, 6-2 as a head coach. And yes, the non-Brady numbers weren't great. Fired in Cleveland. He did a about-face turncoat move on the New York Jets. But when it comes to that portion of his career, I don't find enough reasons there to keep him out of the Hall of Fame, where most of the respected football people who have chimed in have called him the greatest coach in football history. I am not qualified enough to make that assertion, so I'll leave it to people that are and listen to them. The numbers say what they say. And there's the cheating stuff, okay? So if you're going to hold Belichick accountable for that, are you going to hold Tom Brady accountable for that, right? It's kind of like the baseball stuff, where for years and years and years, we talked about the Baseball Hall of Fame. How are they going to handle the steroid era? How are they going to handle the Barry Bonds of the world? How are they going to handle the Mark McGuires of the world, the Sammy Sosas of the world, the Andy Pettitts, the Roger Clemens, the Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz, quite frankly, anybody who played for the Red Sox when they were good. It's a Yankee fan talking. How are they going to handle that? And I've always said, you've either got to keep all of them out or put all of them in, because how are you going to go about such an arbitrary process without having all the details? If you're going to put Manny Ramirez in, then you've got to put Alex Rodriguez in. If you're going to keep him out, you got to keep him out. So when it comes to the criteria surrounding why these 10 or 11 people elected not to vote, who most people believe is the greatest head coach in NFL history, anonymity is a cloak for cowardice. Raise your hand, admit you didn't vote him in, and then, more important, tell us why. What's the reason? So the criteria is clear. Like the clandestine process in pro baseball for years has driven me nuts. There's not a more mercurial, annoying group in sports than the people who vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame. And now over in the NFL, this is kind of reeking of that. Now, one thing that I think could be a lesson here is Bill Belichick for years was just a jerk. He was just not a nice person. Reports that he wasn't nice to people in the New England ecosystem, reports that he wasn't necessarily super friendly with his own staff, and obviously he was an ass to the media all the time. And I don't know what portion of the NFL Hall of Fame voters are writers, but there are some. So maybe there's a lesson. I don't know. Don't be a jerk like all the time. It's one thing to be in a bad mood, but it's another thing just to be consistently a jerk to everybody. But it is an interesting story. It doesn't mean that he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame. Of course he's going to. But the way that the cycle works, they're going to kind of have to push things back a year, which could be something that keeps certain people out eventually who deserve to be in. So an interesting story surfacing yesterday. Bill Belichick not voted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame during his first opportunity. All right, we'll catch a break. RSL fans, you have been starving for moves. They have been made. 6 new players on the way, 2 designated players sent away. We'll bring in Kurt Schmidt. And then it's Tim McMahon, Craig Bolerjack, Tony Parks. We got a busy Wednesday show, and it's good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. The Golden State Warriors are in town to take on the Utah Jazz tonight. Jazz played the Clips last night. Steph Curry always draws a crowd, so we'll get to some NBA stuff. Giannis might be on the move. We'll get to the trade deadline as well. We've got Tim McMahon and Craig Bolerjack and Tony Parks. We'll get back to some college and pro football. But our next guest has been a busy, busy boy. When Jason Christ joined us last week, he teased that maybe 5 signings could be consummated prior to opening day for RSL. Looks like we might be headed towards 6, so we'll get to our next guest and talk about what we can officially, and then ask him about what he cannot speak about, and then he won't tell me. Kurt Schmidt back on the show on a Wednesday. You've been a busy guy. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind lately.
Where do we find you currently? Where are you joining us from?
Tonight I'm in Portugal with the team.
Okay.
I actually head back home tomorrow, but tonight I'm in Portugal.
Okay. So let's kind of dig in here one at a time. The news became official that Rowan Cruz and that loan has been terminated, correct? Can you walk us through this process and how it all went down, Kurt?
Yeah, I think it's just conversations that we had at the end of the season about what we wanted to do moving forward and how we wanted to build it. And, Ruwan worked really hard for us and did a good job, but we decided we wanted to reallocate not just the resources and the money, but obviously the DP spot as well. And so we decided it was best to explore a potential move, and they came to us with this opportunity for him to go back to his club in Bulgaria. So we made it happen.
And I believe it's also official that Diogo Gonçalves is no longer with the group, no longer with the club. Is that true?
I don't think it's true that it's official, but we're finalizing that shortly.
Okay, fair enough. So at some point, the news will become official that Diogo leaves. So 2 open DP spots. We'll get to those just a minute, but one thing I know I can't ask you about, Stein Spearing's officially on board, a central holding mid that I believe is brought in to fill the hole left by moving on from Brian Ojeda. Is that fair to say, Kurt?
Yeah, I think we wanted to just get something in there that was a little bit different flavor than what we had last year in the middle of midfield, in terms of having someone that was a little more focused on distribution and range of passing. And we feel like Stein brings that to the group, and think he pairs well with any of the other guys that we've got in that position right now.
Tell us about his background, how you became familiar with him, and then the process that led you to signing him.
Yeah, he has a little bit of circuitous background. He started in Holland, kind of a little bit lower down the table, and then ended up going to I believe it was Eastern Europe, and then he came back to France. And that's kind of where we first picked him up. We were scouting a few years ago, and we're actually watching a different player on this team in Toulouse, and noticed him and sort of kept track of him a little bit. He ended up at Bromby, just kind of serendipitously. And as we were thinking about the profile for this position, we thought he fit based on what we knew, and obviously the recent scouting that we did on him. And it just made sense, and obviously, Bromby is a club that we know pretty well through ownership. And so we were able to get a quick deal sorted out and bring him on board.
All right. Now I'm just going to ask based off of things that I've heard, and then you kind of walk us through if we're in the process, if it's official or whatever you can, of course. And rumors over the past few hours out of South America, a Colombian center back, Juan Arias, if I'm saying that correctly, that you guys are looking to sign. Any traction there?
Yeah, we obviously we're very aware of Juan Jose, and we're working to figure that out and finalize it. But yeah, he's someone that we've been paying a lot of attention to over the past year, and think he's an exciting young player that we can add to the team and be someone we can develop for the future, but also someone that we think can play minutes right now. And
am I understanding correctly that he's a center back? Is that his position?
Yeah, center back.
Okay, because you also brought in, I want to make sure the Lucas Angle kid, right? And he's also a center back. That's another and that one's official, right? You can walk us through that, yeah?
Yeah, Lucas was in Cincinnati last year on loan from Middlesbrough, and they chose not to exercise the option, so he went back there. We picked him up in the MLS quirk called the reentry draft. So we essentially drafted the rights to negotiate with him and his club, and we did that, and we're able to find an agreement. We brought him here, and he's played almost everywhere, but he's sort of left back most recently, but did a lot of good work at left center back in a 3 with Cincinnati last year. And so as we looked at this formation shift and formation change, and obviously with the departure of Brian Vera, we needed someone who could provide some comfort on the ball and some passing and distribution from the left side, who's obviously left-footed. And we thought Lucas was a really good fit in that role, sort of a hybrid role. When you're playing on the side of a 3, it's, you're a center back, but you've also got to do a lot of 1-to-1 defending against maybe some quicker players in wide spaces, and a guy who kind of has his skill set of having played a bit of fullback and a bit of center back. It's a really good fit for someone like that.
All right, moving over, as we reference, and Kurt Schmidt is with us. We're talking RSL editions. Kurt has been a very, very busy guy. Jason hopped on last week to kind of outline the beginning of this plan that's now being executed. So for RSL fans that have been waiting for moves, we've got a ton to talk about. So I'm going to do my best here. Morgan Gilavogi. Did I do? Is that all right? RSL fans will eviscerate me for my pronunciation. But is that okay?
You're asking the wrong guy. Don't ask me to pronounce anything in French. So
okay,
the wrong guy.
Okay, fair enough. But we've talked about the potential of adding a really dynamic player in the attack, and the rumor is he will be a designated player. Morgan, again, everyone calm down. Morgan Gilavogi, who is an attacking piece. And the reports I'm reading, $5 million for a designated player that would be playing in the attack. What can you share, Kurt?
We've been having some conversations with Longs, with his club, and think that we're close to getting a deal over the line there as well. He's a real dynamic player that we think can play a few different positions in the attack. When he's been given a run of games and a prominent role in his teams, he's been productive. He was very productive in a bad Bundesliga team the year before, St. Pauli, and he did a great job when he led the line for Paris in the second division in France. So he's someone that has a lot of the skill set that we want. We've actually been tracking him as well for a bit now, about 18 months. And, it was another opportunity that came up, and, nothing finalized yet there, but we're definitely working on it.
Is this a true 9? Is he a winger? What type of player is he?
He's a second striker. He can play wide as well on either side, but he's more of like a second striker to play off of someone else. We obviously have Victor Olatunji, who's an excellent striker for anyone to play off of, and so that could be a really good pair.
Now, this one just came across a couple of hours ago, and again, we're going to do our best here. Juan Sanabria, I believe is how you say it, could be playing for Uruguay in the World Cup. I'm reading that he's a left winger, and the reports are that he is being linked to the club. So what can you share here, and what sort of level? Is this another DP? What's the mechanism that would be used to acquire him?
I'll just say that we're not looking at any of these current group of signings other than what you've already mentioned to be an additional DP signing right now.
Okay.
Juan's a guy that we've certainly we certainly know of, and I've known him since he was back home in Uruguay as well, and playing for youth national teams, and he can play all up and down the left side, and he's a very exciting, hardworking, attacking player that gets in the box, gives quality in the box on both ends. But that's something that we're looking at and having some early conversations with, but there's nothing to report, I think, there really, and it's just someone that we're tracking and watching. There's a lot of noise sometimes comes out of South America, Central America.
I'll just leave that there. Okay, you're not wrong. But I'm just kind of connecting some dots here. So I'm going to outline this. You tell me if I'm accurate in the right spot, if you need to kind of make some additions, or tell me that, things you can't really get into. But Diogo, looks like we're moving on from Diogo Gonçalves. Ron Cruz, loan terminated yesterday. Stein Spearing's officially on board. The Colombian center back Juan Arias potentially, and then this designated player attacker, Morgan Gilavogi. If I'm not pronouncing that right, leave me alone. I'm doing my best here. And then in addition to that, we're leaning into this potential of Juan Sanabria, who could play for Uruguay in the World Cup. So by my count, Kurt, that is 6 new players brought in, because we talked about Lucas Engel as well. 2 designated player moved on from, and the potential of close to $8 to $9 million in spend on bringing in talent. Is that, just generally speaking, is that kind of where we're at right now in this process?
It's a good summary. I'll say, high level sounds like you're on the right track. Won't confirm too many of the details there, but high level, we're on the right track. We're trying to, dot all the I's and cross all the T's and make sure that we get these guys in. And obviously, everyone can't be a DP, and so getting some guys in under the cap, under some of the normal sort of MLS mechanisms, whether it's U22 or TAN. And doing that as well. But yes, high level, it sounds like you're on the right track.
Fair enough. So the 4 U22 spots, Diego, Piol, Mark Zook, and potentially Arias. Is that correct?
Yes. If we were able to get Arias on board, he would be U22 eligible.
And the 1 DP on the roster would be Gilavogi, correct? With
a few pending things going, but yes, he would end up being the 1 DP right now.
So what that, and we, I'm going to land the plane here. You're probably mad at me already, but I will land the plane here. It feels like that.
You're doing great.
Thank you, sir. This is drinking through a fire hose. It does feel like that will leave an open DP spot for the summer. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, right now,
okay.
That's where we're heading with the overall plan is having keeping our powder dry a little bit there with a spot open for the summer. Coming out of the World Cup, there could be some interesting opportunities there. Obviously we also have some exciting young players that are attracting interest, and we'd love to keep them, of course, but you've got to be prepared. So at the moment, yes.
And that leads me to the report that's out there, and this is not a surprise because my analysis is Diego Luna is a good player and therefore will receive interest from other teams that like to sign players that are good at playing soccer. But there are a couple of rumors out there that some pretty big-time clubs are looking to maybe acquire him. Can you comment on that and your plan as to whether or not we can, expect to see Diego wearing an RSL kit all year?
Yeah, Diego's like you said, he's a very good player, and it's no surprise that the teams will be interested in him. And as far as what's come to me, right, very little, if anything, has come to me that's been interesting enough to talk about, to discuss. I'm in pretty consistent communication with Diego's agents on these things, and obviously Diego as well. And if something comes up and it's the right opportunity for everyone, then we'll have a serious talk about it. But, I think for him, for us, this is probably not the moment to make that move. And, I think he's doing well in camp right now. And we obviously plan on him being a guy that can pull the strings for us this year.
Again, if I'm understanding this correctly, and Kurt Schmidt is with us, we're doing our best to learn about all these new acquisitions, the potential acquisitions that could come to fruition. So you still have a sizable amount of GAM. You know me, big GAM guy. TAM's cool too, but give me the GAM. Potential DP spot open for the summer. And so when it comes to, this continuing process, just generally speaking, if we get all these things across the line, would the plan in place sound like, hey, let's sort of see what hand we've been dealt to start the year with all of these new pieces and then move forward with still some ammunition if we needed to add in the summer window? Because the interesting thing for our listeners, Kurt, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe with the World Cup break, the summer transfer window this year, there's still like 19 or 20 matches after that window. So even if you waited to the summer to fill the other DP spots or utilize – 5 or 6 mil in GAM or whatever you have, there's a sizable part of the season that is still after the window. Is that correct?
Yeah, the league was able to extend the summer window, so it's the two windows are more equivalent in size now, rather than having one be big and one small. So that's helped, and along with the World Cup, as you mentioned, having now more games to play after the summer window opens, which is very useful, because obviously the last few years it's been basically 2/3, 1/3, which is not ideal for summer signings to come in and only play 10 games plus playoffs.
International spots, in my my knowledge here might be antiquated, because I think at some point we traded like an international spot for Adolfo Gregorio that we could like literally never get back for all eternity, no matter how long the league exists. Like, we can't get it back.
We got it back.
We got it back.
We got it back.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How did we do that? I thought we could never. No, I thought we could never get that back. It was like the dumbest thing we had done. How did you pull that off?
We actually got it back. When did we get it back? A couple years ago. It was some negotiations with the league. Ownership stepped in and actually went to bat and did a good job of helping us get that back. And so we had to sacrifice a little bit of assets at that time. But yeah, we got it back.
I wish I was in the room for that.
Huh?
No, I had no idea, because I can remember this was like 2006 or something, and I can remember sitting in the office and somebody's like, "Yeah, we traded for this player. His name is Adolfo Gregorio, but we had to trade an international spot, and we can never get it back." And I raised my hand. I'm like, "Hey, I don't know anything about soccer. That seems like a really, really dumb idea." And then the kid played 5 games. But my understanding was the deal was we could literally never get that thing back. I got to know what the message was to the league. Were you like, "Hey, none of us were around. It seems like it's a little punitive to lose an international spot in perpetuity for a kid that played 5 matches"?
Yeah. So I don't know, actually. So I think we were down. Were we down 2? I think we were down 2. And then, a long time ago, but then Chivas folded and they had one of them. And so I guess we got that one back. And then, we got this one back. And I think a big part of it was with the price. When you look at the trade value of an international spot, the argument was essentially, this is clearly the intent way back when this was traded, was not to give up something that had millions and millions of dollars in value over a span of 10, 15 years, whatever it is. So there was a fair agreement was reached to return that back.
That is awesome. I did not know that, because my question was going to be, do you have any internet, what is the current format? How many international slots you have at your disposal, and how many you have left to execute signings?
Yeah, we have 9. We picked up one last year for this year.
Okay.
So we have 9 right now. There's obviously these guys that we're picking up now are all internationals, and there's certainly some movement that'll happen. There's some guys that are actually pretty close to their green cards, which is great news for them and their families, and they won't count as internationals when that happens.
Very nice. Nelson Palacio currently on loan. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just got back from injury.
Okay. All right. So again, we are doing a little loose math here, because we have to wait for certain things to get across the line and certain things to actually come to fruition. And this is a wild process when you're dealing with the ecosystem of soccer, both domestically and internationally. And we've all seen things that have fallen through at the last minute. But this does appear to be the most active transfer window in RSL history. And if everything comes across the line, Kurt, by far the most money that ownership has spent on talent. What does that say about the support? Because a lot of people have pontificated on, the sound bites of, hey, we are getting the support. They are willing to spend money, but waiting to see the proof. This does appear to be proof that you guys are getting the financial support you need from owners. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I think ownership has been very supportive, and Miller family stepped in and they've been very supportive, and obviously, David Blitzer as well, and they've been very supportive. And I think, MLS has also come a long way where, you can acquire some guys and structure them in the right way, so that they, before it used to be almost anyone you bought for anything sort of had to be a DP, and now we're approaching a place where you can structure things creatively and properly so that you can spend decent money on someone and make them fit under the cap. And so that's also what not just us, but what teams are doing a little bit more and more, as the league is progressing and developing itself.
Okay, good stuff. Now, we actually should talk about the fact that you do have a team currently with players that have been playing some soccer. So you've won a couple of preseason matches, 2-1 each in Portugal. What has stood out? I know Diego had a couple of assists. It was great to see Dom get on the board as well. Katranis, Tyler Wolf. What has stood out during these first two matches, Kurt?
Honestly, I think what stood out is the adaptation to a new system and watching the guys pick it up in real time. And obviously, we're asking them to do something different, with the three at the back that they didn't do last year, at least not in both phases of the game, in and out of possession. And so it's been really encouraging to see how quickly they've picked it up. And I think part of it is some of the guys that we've brought in, over the past 6 months there's a lot of versatility and a lot of flexibility amongst those players and able to play different positions, and sort of that helps us take on different looks and fill gaps in the game that can potentially open up. So you got Andrew Evan who can play right wing back or right center back. We mentioned Lucas Engel can do both, and Junko can do both, fullback and center back. That's been helpful, and as well as a guy like Don Marzouk, who has played obviously right wing, but can also play right wing back, and then Gozo can be flexible, playing up top as the 9 or underneath as either 9.5 or a 10. So there's a lot of flexibility there, which helps be a little bit more fluid, but within a structure. So that's been the most encouraging thing. The scorers are the scorers. Nobody wins the championship or wins a trophy with what anyone cares about in preseason. So that's not that important, but it's good to see us creating chances and scoring chances. That's always positive. And yeah, I've just been really encouraged with some of the way they picked it up with some of the new guys as well. They've done a good job. Sergi Solans has come in, from college as well, and actually performed really well the first couple games.
All right, bud, before I set you loose, I'm always one to try to temper expectations, because I think oftentimes expectations lead to unrealistic things, and then we're all bummed out when this or that doesn't happen. And MLS is such a marathon, not a sprint, that some of our best teams have been off to horrible starts and turned it around, and some of our worst teams were off to awesome starts and never figured it out. But just from my seat, without knowing a ton about all of these players, the money that's been spent, 6 new players in, moving on from a couple, you fill the U22s, you bring in a DP, you have good core pieces returning, you're putting in a new system, you've got a head coach that is taking the team to the playoffs for 5 straight years. I feel like there's a lot to be encouraged and optimistic about as we approach opening day, yeah?
Yeah. Go back to your first thing. No. Keep the expectations down. Temp those down.
Sure.
I think the level of consistency that we've shown over a number of years now. You mentioned Pablo, getting the playoffs the last 5 years. And, I think that's something in the salary cap league that's even in MLS it's still hard to do. It's maybe not a Herculean task to get there in any one season, but to continually get there and continuously compete and put ourselves, again, if we want to win, the first step is you got to get in the playoffs. And so to be able to take that first step continuously is an encouraging sign, but we all know it's not the goal. And that's why a season like last season can feel like it does, which is, even though we made the playoffs, obviously it's, we all feel the disappointment and the motivation to improve the squad and improve the team and compete at a higher level this year. So, we want to be competing not just to get in the playoffs, but at the top of the conference. We want to be competing for home field advantage, and then obviously making runs deeper into the playoffs. So those are the things that our sights are set on. But yeah, you can keep the expectations low. I'm okay with that.
All right, man. Well, look, congrats on what you've been able to get done. Best of luck getting the rest of the work finish that you need to. And thanks for the time. Safe travels, Kurt, okay?
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Kurt Schmidt, RSL Chief Soccer Officer. He has been a busy boy. All right. We're going to try to do this here. I know I'm going to take a ton of heat on from angry soccer fans on the intrawebs. But as far as what I can tell, piecing all of this together, what RSL has been able to accomplish, they move on from Diogo Gonçalves, a designated player who never panned out. Another DP, Ron Cruz, has had his loan terminated. Stein Spearings, a central defensive midfielder, has been signed. He'll step in for Brian Ojeda, who was traded to Orlando. Juan Arias is a center back, I believe. Rumors coming out of South America. And the number attached to him is about $2 million. The $5 million designated player, Morgan Gilavogi, I believe, everyone calm down. He is a striker that would come via a club in France, I think. $5 million for that player. Who am I missing? Oh, rumors have just surfaced that a potential World Cup player that would play for Uruguay named Juan Sanabria, I believe his name, is a left winger who is rumored to be on his way as well. 6 new additions. Of course, that's added to Lucas Engel. That was made official a few weeks ago. And then 2 designated players gone. I believe RSL has filled their U22 spots and 1 designated player spot. The U22 spots would be filled by Diego Luna, of course, Piol, the young striker, then Dom Markzuk, who had an assist in a preseason game. And I believe if the center back from South America, the Arias kid, is brought in, he would fill a U22 spot as well. So there you go. I don't know. This is. Do you have anything you want to add? I did the best I could. I'm learning all of this kind of in real time.
I think you have it covered.
Do you have anything to add about the GAM or the TAM available? Because you're a big GAM and TAM guy.
I like the utilization of the GAM.
Well said. All right, we'll catch a break. Tim McMahon joins us coming up on the other side, so keep it right here. Stephen Wardell Curry is in town. Utah Jazz, second night of a back-to-back after losing to the Clippers last night. No Keontae George, no Yusuf Nurkic. I do believe Keontae is playing tonight. I think Nurk is questionable, but Lowry will play. So it's always fun when the Jazz play their good players. Our next guest covers the NBA and the Utah Jazz for ESPN. Tim McMahon on a Wednesday. Timmy, happy Wednesday. How you doing, man?
Howdy, partner. I'm good. How you doing?
Doing well. When news is reported that a generational superstar could actually be on the move, I will not bury the lead. Shams Charania reporting that the Giannis Milwaukee stuff has now reached a point where Milwaukee is listening to offers and Giannis is ready to move on, if I understand it. What's your understanding of where we're at? And do you think he's moved prior to the deadline?
I mean, just the slowest, most painfully awkward dance to get to this point when – I mean, who doesn't think this is what makes sense for both of the parties, both Giannis and the Bucks? Like, it's time. You know, the idea that the Bucks are going to keep trying to build around him and keep mortgaging the future to maybe be a play-in team. Come on now. And you know, Giannis, he kind of you've been through this with Donovan Mitchell in Utah. Now, different that Giannis was in Milwaukee much longer and hung a banner and all those things, but the plausible deniability on ever actually asking for a trade when everybody in the world knows that's what the guy wanted. So that's where we are. And I don't know. He will be traded at some point. I'm not sure if that's before the deadline because depending on what the offers are, it might make sense for the Bucks to say, okay, we're going to pause and we're going to revisit in the summer when there are some more draft picks that become available. You know, there's teams now that can offer X at the draft, and then X plus. X right now, then X plus at the draft.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like if I'm running the roster construction in Milwaukee, I got one swing at this with a guy like that, and the package has to check every single box. My guess would be, you know, if we utilize the Donovan example and some of the other examples, you know, that are in that space. Donovan much younger, but Giannis is 31 with probably 6-7 high-level years left. You know, a ton of picks, right? You know, 3 to 5 picks and swaps and maybe a couple of youngish players that could grow into something, maybe a Paul George, OKC, SGA type situation. Is that our best guess here?
Yeah, I think that's what you're looking at. And because the Bucks have given up so much of their own draft capital, I think that the draft has got to be a priority. You know, it's a tough situation that the Bucks are in because they don't benefit from being bad after this year. They very much benefit from being bad this year, but after this year they won't. They don't have control of their own round pick until 2031 unless they manage to get, you know, back a pick or 2 or 3 of their own, which would mean that Portland has to be involved, not necessarily as the destination, but at least as a third team. But I don't think the goal can be, hey, let's make the in-between years as good as possible, because as good as possible is still very likely going to be mediocre. I think the goal here has to be how can we position this franchise to be a real contender at some point in the not-too-distant future. And that gets you back to the draft picks.
Yeah, for sure. As far as the potential, because I'm going over Bobby's stuff, as I always do, to guide me through what all these teams can offer here. The Atlanta possibility is really intriguing because they have that pick that's unprotected from New Orleans that as of now would put them at 3 in the draft coming up. Of course, they move on from Trey. But as you and I discussed, the Trae Young trade and the lack of, you know, a massive return seemed to indicate there was something else up their sleeve. And that seems to make sense, certainly with that one option out there. And as Bobby references, they've got 4 or 5 other picks that they could throw in there. Does Atlanta feel like it could make sense? And also, is this a scenario where Giannis is going to have to agree to where they trade him?
I mean, Giannis is going to have some say. Yeah. He's got 1 year left on his contract plus a player option. So if they send him somewhere he doesn't want to be, he won't be there very long. And so he's obviously going to have some say. You know, a team that makes this trade is clearly going to have to be prepared to give Giannis a massive, if not full max extension. And frankly, I think full max is probably going to be what it has to be. Atlanta's interesting. I don't know that I would argue that it makes a ton of sense for the Hawks. I don't know that the Hawks are a superstar away from being a contender, especially if they have to give up their best player, who happens to be Milwaukee native, Jalen Johnson, who is a young guy who's on a very reasonable contract by NBA standards. And a bunch of the draft capital. I would argue that the Hawks would be better to be patient, to take what's likely going to be a top 5 pick in this year's draft, and what's supposed to be a loaded draft. Draft that guy, then you've got whoever it is, young stud plus Jalen Johnson as your core moving forward. I think that's better than going for a 31-year-old Giannis. Now, Golden State's a completely different situation. Miami is in a different situation. Those are teams that I think make a lot more sense. I expect the Knicks to be involved in some way, shape, or form here. I think that's going to take some real creativity because the Knicks basically have 0 picks to offer. They've got a phony pick, a phony first-round pick from the Wizards. It's not going to convey, and that's it.
As Bobby points out, I mean, if you're on Sala, do you want to trade? The Pelicans pick will be in the mix for winning the whole thing, right? And whether it's A.J. DeBonsa or Darren Peterson or Cam Boozer, if you're Sala, if you're the GM of Atlanta, do you want to trade even that? Now, obviously, it wouldn't be just that, but if you're Milwaukee, you're probably looking at Atlanta's asset via New Orleans as the most valuable draft asset in the market. If you're Atlanta, do you want to give that up as part of the package? I think that's an intriguing piece here.
And no, I don't. And by the way, there's actually 2 bites at the apple because it is the more favorable of New Orleans and Milwaukee's pick.
Mm-hmm.
That pick's a swap, but Milwaukee, look, at this point, regardless of if he's traded or not, Giannis isn't. I can't imagine he's going to play for the Bucks again this season. But especially in the trade, obviously he's not there. That Milwaukee's going to have odds somewhere likely in the 5 to 9 range. Those are decent lottery odds. The Pelicans are going to be probably somewhere in the 1 to 3 range. So what you're giving up is the best odds of anybody to have the number 1 pick in this draft. And again, I'm told, depending on who you talk to, there are 6 to 7 studs at the top of the draft, 2 to 3 franchise players. So I don't know that I'm giving up that as a team that right now is sitting in 10th place in the Eastern Conference, assuming you're going to have to attach probably your best player along with it to get Giannis. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. I don't know how much different your situation is going to be than the Bucks is right now, where you've got an awesome player and you don't have a supporting cast around them.
I'm looking at Bobby's breakdown of what the Pistons can offer, which is interesting because according to Bobby, they'd have among the best potential packages, up to 4 future firsts. They've got a large tradable contract with Tobias Harris. And then obviously a bunch of young, really awesome players, $26.1 million below first apron. They're hard capped. Dennis Lindsey, once upon a time, expedited some growth out this way by trading for Mike Conley. But to your point about Atlanta, if you're Detroit, with how bright that future is, do you want to maintain your core, or is there a thought to expedite this season to maybe go all in?
I can tell you, having talked to people high up in Detroit, in San Antonio, and Houston, all those teams have the ammo to make a real offer, to be absolutely involved in this. None of them, as far as I know, have the intention to do so.
Yeah.
They're all kind of at that point where they have great young cores. They don't want to expedite the timeline at the expense of shortening their runways. Also, they don't want to expedite the timeline at the expense of possibly stunning the growth of some of their really promising young players. And look, the other thing is, to do these deals, you're having to give up some of your really promising young players. So I would be surprised if the Pistons get in the mix. I would be surprised if the Rockets get in the mix. I would be surprised if the Spurs get in the mix. And that's not speculation. That's based on what people who are making decisions at those places have told me.
Jazz fans are anxious to see this team back in playoff contention and competitive spring basketball as soon as possible. So, of course, when a report like this comes down, texts come in from friends that are Jazz fans. Could the Jazz get involved here? To which I said, if they do, I will do a month of shows naked on YouTube. I do not think it's a possibility, yeah?
Well, I really hope that YouTube has a way to blur things out because I do think the Jazz could get involved here.
Oh, whoa. Wait. Are you serious?
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, dear. How does that look?
I do. As a facilitator.
I need
you
to.
You just said get involved.
Yeah, I need
it. Said get involved.
You're not wrong. I got to send a couple of texts. You're right. No, that's actually a really good point. I should have interviewed you before I promised that. Is that the most likely thing we're going to see with our local team? Ultimately, just getting involved to absorb some salary, or is the Nurkic stuff real? A contender? I don't know. What do you think, if anything, we'll see from the Jazz?
They're not moving Nurkic just to move Nurkic or just to get off his salary. They have real interest in having Nurkic back next year. Not at the money he's making now, but they would love to have Nurkic back, hopefully in a backup role next year. You watched him; he's been good for them. I'm told he likes it there. They like having him there. Never say never, because if there's an offer made that makes sense, obviously you're going to do it. But I do think that the Jazz are a team that look, they're still very much in, acquisition mode in terms of asset accumulation. And, this is like you saw what they did at the deadline last year, right? Where the Suns only have one pick, and it's like, well, we got to do something. We got to have more flexibility. And the Jazz like, yeah, hey, we'll take that future pick with major upside and give you a few picks that have very limited upside now. We'll do the quantity for quality swap. And, I think there's a chance that the Jazz get involved. Like, I know the Jazz have kind of let it be known around the league of, hey, we're open for that kind of business again. I also know that the Thunder are open for that kind of business again. That's something that Sam Presti has done in the past. And Presti has done it in a case where, like, for example, they've got the Mavericks 28 swap. That's from giving a pickup to facilitate the Gafford deal to Dallas. And they ended up facing the Mavericks in the second round that year and lost to them. So Presti's shown a willingness to, even if we might see a team that's strengthened in the playoffs, to do something that puts them in a better position long term. So Oklahoma City, Utah are both potential facilitators. So, frankly, I could see the Pistons as a facilitator too.
Yeah. Have you heard anything, or do you think there's anything here? Taylor Hendricks did play last night, but he has fallen out of the rotation. Kyle Filipowski, for the most part, has been a net negative this year, certainly defensively. There are a lot of questions. Cody's actually shown a few things as of late. But look, we know the deal. Marketing and Keontae, you've been, able to kind of help us understand the Kessler dynamic. The other young players that they're still trying to analyze the hand they've been dealt. Do you think there's any chance the Jazz move on from any of them prior to February 5th?
Yeah, and to be clear, the Kessler dynamic is a complicated one.
Yeah.
But look, is there a chance? Yes. I don't think it's likely. If we're just being real, like, none of those guys have significant value right now.
Right.
So, might as well keep them around and see if one of them pops. Keontae George didn't have significant value at this time last year, had a heck of a summer, and, now he's unquestionably a part of the Jazz's core moving forward. So I agree with you that Cody's shown some flashes here. Hendricks, unfortunately, you haven't seen that. I think Filipowski's probably destined for a really nice career in Europe, but we'll see. Collier, he's shown some things, but it's not. You don't have teams offering stuff of significant value to get their hands on any of those guys at this point.
No, and let me ask you about Bryce Sensabaugh, who again has shown the ability to do one thing really well, and it's an important thing. He can get buckets, which you need to do in pro basketball. Do you feel like he's moving closer to the group that they've analyzed that they want around here for a little while?
I think that he is showing that he can fill a legitimate role, and that's a bench bucket getter type of role. So I do think that as they're envisioning their future, they can see a spot for him. You know what Will Hardy calls him? Have I told you this?
No, what's that?
The crock pot.
Instead of the microwave.
Not quite the microwave. The microwave's instant. The crock pot takes a while to get cooking. But man, when you see that orange light on, it's time to cook. And look, Sensabaugh's showing you, like when he gets hot, he gets scorching hot.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see him as part of the group moving forward.
No, that's clever. That's funny. You referenced the Kessler dynamic. Let's just revisit it for our listeners who didn't have a chance to hear it because radio's not linear. Obviously, he's out for the year, but you're kind of the only guy that seems to have any sort of intel on this. So any update, and let's kind of revisit the relationship between Walker Kessler and the Utah Jazz.
Not really an update, but the Jazz would like to keep Walker Kessler. They obviously have his rights as a restricted free agent, and I think they view him, at a number that would be a quality starting center type of number. And look, on a rookie extension, it's a number that the value of the contract would be 9 figures. I think Walker and his representation at CAA consider him to be a high quality starting center. And I think the numbers that they have in mind are significantly larger than the numbers that the Jazz have in mind. And, I think that, they're comping, for example, Walker to the first 3 years of Rudy Gobert's career and saying, hey, Gobert got this number at that time, which with NBA inflation equates to, a number, frankly, it's in the 40s per year at this point. And, I don't think it's going to be a smooth, easy, sweet, comfortable, restricted free agency for Walker Kessler. But ultimately, the Jazz want to keep him. They can match any offer, and we will see how things play out.
Been some big boy moments from Ace lately. A couple last night where he was guarding Kawhi, and he did not make the Rising Stars roster or whatever they're calling that these days. Now, ultimately, who gives a rip? Nobody. Is that just more of a because I've watched obviously Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple. It feels like this rookie class is really good and really deep. Is that the main reason we're not going to see Ace at All-Star Weekend?
Yeah, and somebody had to get left out. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'll be honest with you, I haven't done a whole lot of studying of the Rising Stars roster. But I do believe that all the rookies that are in that game are putting up better counting numbers than Ace.
They are.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, they are. We went over it yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So, was he snubbed? I don't sure, whatever. He was the highest pick who didn't make it. I don't think that that's any red flag or anything like that. I can tell you the Jazz are very happy to have him, very excited about what they've seen from him so far, and ecstatic about what they believe his potential to be on both ends of the floor. And when I've talked to Will about him, Will Hardy, he consistently raves about this kid's potential on the defensive end and willingness to guard on the defensive end. They feel like he's already at a point where he can guard 1 to 3, and as he gets, as he fills out physically, it's going to be 1 to 4. The length, the athleticism, some just like the natural gifts that he has to be an impact defender. And then again, the fact that he's willing to do all that stuff, like he wants to guard. They're really excited about that. And then obviously he's got a chance. There's a lot of development that has to happen. He's as raw as you can be. He's got a chance to develop into a big time scorer. And like you've seen the athleticism. Some of the dunks he has are absolutely insane. But, in terms of shooting and creating, he's got a chance to really pop.
Yeah, there's so much to like. I mean, I have not been this bullish on a Jazz prospect since Donovan. So Cooper continues to be the favorite in Vegas to win Rookie of the Year, but Con Knipple is right on his heels. And then there's VJ. And every time I watch Philly, I'm like, man, I wish VJ fell to the Jazz. That kid is so good. Do you feel like it's going to be Cooper at the end, or do you feel like he's going to have company as far as competing for that award?
I think it will be Cooper. If the voting was right now, Colin Knipple would absolutely have a case. I mean, his efficiency as a rookie is remarkable. The guy's, I think his effective shooting percentage is over 60. I mean, he's scoring almost 19 a game, but and he's got rebounding numbers, more playmaking than you would. He's a lot more than just a catch and shoot guy. I just think at the end, like Cooper's going to be, he's going. I think he'll end up being the leading scorer in the class. He fills out the box score so well. He makes an impact on the defensive end. And if we're being real, he came in with a head start just because of the hype train that he's had for years now.
All right, before I set you loose, we went over the Giannis stuff. There are a ton of rumors about other players that could be on the move. Anything you're hearing of note prior to February 5th that actually could go down that would change things?
You don't want to hear about the potential of Daniel Gafford getting moved.
No, I don't.
So, if you're asking me about Ja, I have no idea if he gets traded. I don't know who it will be. I know where, several places where it won't be. I get to hear of a team that has real interest there. AD, I still think it's, probably 35, 65, 35% that he gets traded, 65% that he's in Dallas after the deadline. Those are really the other couple big names that have been out there in the trade discussion, other than obviously Trey, and we'll see Trey next year alongside probably a top 4 pick.
You out and about? You had a game tonight? You're able to chill at home a little bit?
No, we've got we've had all kinds of snow here, and in Texas we don't deal with snow well, but it's melting. I'm just about to head to the arena. We got the Timberwolves in town,
nice.
Your old pals. I'll see the northern version of the old Utah Jazz with Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Joe Ingles, doesn't play a whole lot but talks as much as ever. And then, look, tomorrow you're asking about the Rookie of the Year race. We get to see it up close and personal where Cooper Flagg against his college roommate, Colin Knipple, right here in Dallas.
Love it, man. Well, we have our lowest snowfall on record. I have not shoveled once, and we live in the mountains. It's a weird thing that you guys are dealing with that down there. So odd stuff. But look, man, I appreciate the time. Good stuff as always. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll chat soon.
I appreciate you, brother.
All right, Tim McMahon, some good stuff there, if you missed it, Jazz fans, about the potential of the Jazz getting involved to help facilitate a Giannis trade. Maybe one of these young players that hasn't necessarily popped on the move. Latest on that, and some good stuff from Tim McMahon today. But before we catch a break, new sponsor on the show, and I had a chance to sample their stuff, and it's awesome. It's Wasatch Wagyu. So you can start your year off right with a juicy prime cut of Wasatch Wagyu. They're giving you a new deal, and I used it last week to get a bunch of New York strip steaks delivered to the house, and they were really, really good. Premium, legit Wagyu beef New York steaks, Wagyu burger beefs, roast, tomahawk steaks, fillets, and now premium Wasatch Wagyu beef jerky in a bunch of flavors. Porter and I both got a grip of it last week, and it's really good. So I want to say a special thank you to Greg and Stacy, the owners, who are hooking you up. So when they first hopped on the show, the discount was 10%, which is good. But now, wait for it, 25% off. And I used it last week. It's legit. WasatchWagyu.com. Go to WasatchWagyu.com. Pick what you want. Limited time discount on their Wagyu beef. Feed yourself, feed your family. I'm telling you, it is awesome. They have delivery options. So type in ESPN25 at checkout. That's ESPN25 at checkout. Go to Wasatch Wagyu right now. Pick out what you want. And then type in ESPN25 at checkout to get 25% off your entire order. Enhance your new year with Wasatch Wagyu at WasatchWagyu.com. Melissa, Sound Sleep Medical, live in the studio. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Doing great.
All right. We are helping people who have trouble sleeping at night. What are some early signs that people could look for to indicate they might have sleep apnea?
Good question. Really common ones are I'm tired during the day. I just want to go back to bed after I wake up. Or maybe you're snoring, a morning headache, or you just don't sleep well through the night, like you're waking up too much. All of those are big red flags for sleep apnea, but the only way to know for sure is to test. And that's the great news is we're offering a test that you get to do at home in your own bed, totally free.
I have some friends that have tried the CPAP. And it's just big and bulky. It's hard to travel with. It's somewhat inconvenient. So we are not offering a CPAP today. It's an alternative. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is a custom-made oral appliance. It's kind of like a mouth guard that you wear on your teeth just during the night. If you've tried something online, this is nothing compared to that. We call those boil and bites at our office. This is a real medical device, FDA approved, studied to work, obviously. And the great news is it can go through your health insurance. So it's a really good time to take advantage.
And every time you're in studio, you have an offer for our listeners. What's that special offer today, Melissa?
For sure. Call now, 801-335-9824. You can also find us and schedule at soundsleepmedical.com. Do it now during the show. Don't procrastinate because we're giving you a free sleep screening, which is a test you get to do in your own bed. Bring it back to us. We've got 6 offices. We'll download it, give you that report, those results, totally free, no obligation.
Yeah, if you're sick of being tired during the day, let's get you some enhanced daytime function. There's a warranty on all these devices. They're professionally fit. And as Melissa mentioned, they're covered by most major medical insurances. But you have to call today for the free sleep screening at 801-335-9824. That's 801-335-9824, 801-335-9824, or online at soundsleepmedical.com. Locations, Clearfield, Murray, Sandy, American Fork, Provo, and St. George. Melissa, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Some guy named Steph Curry's in town. Golden State Warriors taking on the Utah Jazz tonight. Back-to-back for the Jazz after losing to the Clips last night. Trade deadline right around the corner. Ace Bailey not on the Rising Stars roster for All-Star Weekend. Not sure if the Jazz will have any representation during All-Star Weekend, but let's get into it with our next guest, the TV voice of the Utah Jazz, Craig Bowler, Jack, Wednesday afternoon style. Bowler, happy Wednesday, man. How you doing?
Hey, you too. Good to hear from you. How you been?
I've been good. I have a football question for you at the start, though, because for our listeners, they know you as the TV voice of the Jazz. A lot of us know you as somebody that called a lot of football over the years as well and played it in college. If Bill Belichick cannot be voted into the Hall of Fame, first time as a coach, can any coach ever be voted into the Hall of Fame on their first try?
Yeah, it's a stunner, Spence. Unless, Inflategate or one of those things come into play with some of these voters, or maybe his short tenure at North Carolina has some sort of a negative impact. Who knows? I think his record speaks for itself, what he was able to do and transform, New England. I got a personal story with him. I called several games when I first started at CBS with New England when they were really on the upstart. And I tell you, the guy is amazing, talking about, cover two. We were sitting in there just in a football factory mind, right? And he wrote me a letter, which I still have, about, hey, I hope you come back up. I sent some pencils. This is true. I sent some pencils with this letter to give to your sons. And, it was just a small gesture like that. And I go, man, what a interesting guy. I mean, what a, engaging gentleman he was. And we had several just, talks after that when I called a few more games. But you could tell at that time, man, football mind, outrageous, and such an inventive person and personality. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with the committee, to be honest, unless it goes back to some of those days where they were investigated, and some of them don't like that back east, but we'll see. I think there was, I think on the second ballot probably gets in, but this one is a little odd.
As a fan of the New York Football Jets, no part of me feels bad for you because you have been spoiled. But has your football watching been affected by the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are not involved and have something to say about the best team of pro football?
I'd be lying, Spence, if I didn't say I just kind of look the other way sometimes.
Yeah.
But I've watched football. I have watched. And I'm telling you, the Super Bowl may not be as – we always use the word sexy, but it also tells you how in the world of sports that things change. And Seattle, with kind of a, quote, vagabond quarterback who's found a home, right, in Seattle has, really made some noise. And the Patriots, who we all know in the Belichick days, and Tom Brady, of course, dominated. So it's kind of an intriguing matchup. I know Seattle's already, the favorite to win it. And what I've seen, they're pretty impactful. They've kind of gone about it quietly. Don't you agree? I mean, they're there, and they didn't get a lot of hype. I don't know if that's because it's West Coast football. It's not the 49ers, but it's Seattle. And I'll definitely watch Super Bowl Sunday for sure.
I think, and then we'll move on after this. Excuse me. I think my favorite storyline, of all the quarterbacks the Jets have drafted and either failed to develop or just drafted bad players, Sam was the one that I thought, okay, there's something here. And, didn't work out in New York. It actually did work out in Minnesota. Penny for the thoughts of Vikings fans after watching J.J. McCarthy this year. But the Sam Darnold redemption arc story, Bowler. By the way, did you know that he is about to become the first quarterback from USC to ever start in a Super Bowl? Like, how wild is that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a great stat, because you think of the great QBs that have come out of there, the Matt Leinarts. At least, those are the names that name popped up first and foremost. And, that program isn't what it was, granted, because of what happened to the Pac-12. But that's a great stat. But I'm happy for him because, you know what? There are players that get chances and then it fails. And New York, as you know, that market is brutal. And it's win now or go home, right? And so they make moves quickly, sometimes most likely to their disadvantage, to move on from players, trying to find the magic cure. And sometimes, as we're learning in the NBA, Spence, young quarterbacks especially, and young point guards or young bigs, when you're 19, 18 in the NBA, you don't know really what you got until a few years down the road. And I think in the NFL, too, your development, I mean, from my standpoint and talking to guys back in the day, most of them played 3 years. Now it's like, I'm tempted. I got to get to the next level, but boy, I tell you, sometimes that extra few snaps makes a big difference, whether you're ready to come out or not. But we shall see. I'm happy for him, and you know what? If he wins a Super Bowl, it's going to be a story beyond a story, especially for the folks in New York and Minnesota.
One more football question, because the debate about, I felt bad for my friends that are Broncos fans. They've been waiting. They've been waiting forever to get back to this spot. And number one, they lose their starting quarterback in Bo Nix to an injury. And then number two, as soon as those conditions set in, it's like the game's over. It's only 10-7, but nobody could run. Even Josh McDaniels called a play on third down for Drake May to roll out and throw the ball out of bounds. That was the play call.
Right.
And so ultimately, it just was a lot of hard luck for Broncos fans. Do you think there's anything to the conversation about, come playoff time, moving playoff games out of cities where inclement weather could affect the outcome of the game?
Oh, Spence, that really is, though, the foundation part of the National Football League.
Yeah.
You know what just went through my mind? A 14-year-old guy on a Saturday or Sunday listening to NFL films and the incredible, iconic voice of John Facunda. And, those moved me. I'll be honest. That got as a young guy, so intrigued with football and the love affair that I've always had with it, college and pro. And you know what? I don't think you can take the inclement weather out of football. It's really, the dome. Sometimes, I've heard people, and I've gone into stadiums, they say, God, man, it's freezing outside. We got to be playing this one outdoors. And another guy will look at you, are you crazy? It's 72 degrees in here. But I will say this. I thought about this multiple times. Bronco fans and would love to have probably replayed that game in 30-degree weather and not the harsh conditions in the second half, because it changed the whole complexity in my book. Kickers, the ball becomes a rock. You can't punch one in, which we saw. What was it, 4 missed field goals in that game?
Mm-hmm.
And, I tell you, though, there is something about weather and football and guys like the Jets or the Giants who jump out before the old days, in the old days where they would just roll up their sleeves and you think, what, are they going to get frostbite out here or what? But that was kind of the tough guy attitude. Even in Buffalo, man, they just roll up their sleeves, the O-line guys, and say, let's go to work. So I don't know. I don't think it goes away, Spence. I get what you're saying, because it'd be a fair playing field, but that's part of the game.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you elect to take playoff games away from communities that have waited for years to watch their team play for a conference championship, football in certain cities, where the Buffalo Bills play, Buffalo, New York is all about the Buffalo Bills or the Green Bay Packers. And can you imagine Packer fans, if they're playing for a conference championship, the NFL's like, oh yeah, we're moving this to South Beach. There's not a chance it's going to happen,
There's no way. I mean, it'd be an uprising. Green Bay is about harsh conditions, and they take it to their advantage in most cases, and so does Buffalo. Kansas City, on occasion, it's living there for as long as I did, we usually got ice, and Denver gets more snow, but it's still the cold weather factor. And then when they come on and say wind chill at Lambeau is -7, and it just kind of is part of the history of the game. To take it away, I don't think it's set well.
All right, Bowler, let's move over now to do a little basketball. And Tim McMahon just joined us last segment. We talked about the potential of the Jazz being involved prior to the trade deadline. The report today is that Giannis is now open to being traded, and Milwaukee is now listening to offers. And look, the Jazz are not going to trade for Giannis. But what the Jazz could do is be like a third team to facilitate by, hey, we'll agree to take this contract, but you have to give us a second-round pick, which is things that we've seen them do in the past.
Right.
And, there's the potential if I'm a general manager of a team right now that's close to contention, I'm calling Danny and asking him about Nurkic if I need a big. I don't think we're going to see anything seismic, though. What are your thoughts as we approach the trade deadline, what we could see from the Utah Jazz?
Beginning of the year, I thought, or even 3 or 4 weeks ago, I thought maybe. I see it less just from my chair, Spence. I have to say that because that's, from my chair. Marketing is such a unique player. And T and I have talked a lot about him on air, just about what he brings in the development and the strength that he has proven that he has more this year after the Euro, basketball tournament this past summer. Looked a little rusty last night. I get it after missing 7 games. Nurk, all of a sudden, has become a bit of a fan favorite just because he's been given a new opportunity, a new lease on life after the debacle in Phoenix and not much in Washington. And he's found kind of a, quote, home here. At least it works in the system for now. And he's a fun guy to be around. The K-Loves and the Kyle Andersons have been terrific. I don't know if they're moving pieces. I mean, I wouldn't say no, but at the same time, I don't know if the Jazz are that intrigued unless something just outrageous happens that is too good to turn down. If that's picks, if that's abilities to move into another position in this draft, which is rich, about 1 through 9 or 10, then maybe. But I think they like how the development's going lately. We wouldn't have said this a month or 2 months ago when the season started, but Cody has really jumped into the spotlight a little bit more with his length and defensive abilities that we didn't see much of last year, and also some play at the rim. So, I wouldn't want to play poker with Danny Ainge. I didn't want to play poker with Scotty Layden either. Both of those guys are two of the most tight to the chest GMs and front office personnel I've ever come across. So you can't really guess. You can only, like a lot of people right now, are looking at combinations of where players may go. And if Giannis is moved, that's a big domino. Some say he'll go. Some say maybe in the summer would be the better opportunity to get more back. But you bring up something interesting. Who's hurt? Who's on the brink of a playoff? And who is at the brink also of taking their franchise to another level and maybe deciding to move a player that maybe isn't going to quite fit, but could be a piece that the Bucks would be interested in, or that, as you said, the third party. So keep an ear to the ground. Feb 5 is coming around pretty quick. And, we'll be on the road. We start a 10-day road trip coming up the 1st of February, leave on the 31st and play first in Toronto, then head down to Indiana in game 2 and end up in Miami. So it's going to be a long haul, and it'll be interesting to see if anybody pulls a string on a trade that involves the Jazz.
So some really good ace moments last night, some really good Ace Bailey moments, really manifesting every time he has an opportunity to play, start, and get rotational minutes. And we know that depending on the game, the rotation changes and the players who are available changes as well. But Ace becomes the highest drafted player to not be named to the Rising Stars Challenge. But I want to be clear here. We always talk about this. Are we a Jazz market or are we an NBA market? And just for Jazz fans that may not be watching the NBA, the rookie class this year has turned out to be really, really good. Okay, so you look at Cooper, who's the favorite, Con Knippel. Every time I watch VJ Edgecombe play, I'm so sad he didn't fall a couple more spots to the Jazz. Cedric Howard's been good. Derek Queen's been good. Caleb Love has been surprisingly good. Jeremiah Fears. I could keep going. And Diego Ordeman, who played his college ball at BYU. At the end of the day, nobody gives a rip if you're on the Rising Stars Challenge. But just what's your take on whether or not Ace should have made the team?
Well, I think what hurt him is twofold. First, early season sickness, and then the hip flexor that kept him out for a half a dozen games or more. He tried to come back, and it flared up again. He told us it's got a mind of its own, but finally he's been back on the floor in these last 5 or 6 games. I think we're actually seeing who Ace Bailey is and who he will become. The last 4 games, just a number from our guy Stoke over in the truck. 19 points. He's at the rim a lot. I mean, how athletic and the wow factor. We've seen him punish the rim 36% from 3 and climbing. Not a bad free throw shooter as well. So as Big T always likes to say, I think he believes he's a 4-level player, which he means mid-range. He can hit a jumper. He can hit a 3, and then he can obviously play at the rim, and he can also hit free throws. So I think we're just seeing the very beginning of Ace. And maybe this, from my standpoint again, Spence, sometimes angry's good. Sometimes not to make something when you're young is good, meaning I need to work a little more. I'm going to find a way to stay healthy. I'm going to find a way to be in better shape. And I hope that's the way he's, approaching this so-called snub. But you made a great point. The people picked in front of him have had a really dynamic year, a rookie year. They've been healthy, and they've been on the floor more than Ace has. And I think you have to put that in the equation when you come down to see who got in and who didn't.
All right. So, and we discussed this with Tim, who stopped by. And look, let's be clear, nobody ultimately knows, but our best guess here, it feels like the analysis and the calculation has been done on Keontae, of course, and has been done on Markkanen and probably Kessler. And I'll put Ace and Walter Clayton Jr. in that group, first of all, because I think Ace is going to be awesome and Walter's just young. It leads us to this next group of players, Bowler, that includes Bryce Sensabaugh, who has an NBA skill, and it's an important one. He can simply put the ball in the basket. And last time I checked, that's important. So you got Sensabaugh, you got Filipowski, you got Collier, you've got Cody Williams and Taylor Hendricks. You have those 5 players where, for me, I'm still kind of going, okay, one night, yep, like that. Next night, okay, not so sure. Taylor falls out of the rotation. He played a couple, 12 minutes last night. With those 5 players, just generally speaking, as we're trying to analyze who's going to be around, where are we at in the process?
Well, it's an ongoing, as you know, there's 30 games or so. What are we tonight? We're hitting game 48. So, nearly 50 games in, that gives us 34 or so. I think, the evaluation process is deep. Will Hardy told us that. Justin Zanuck told us that it's going to be some potentially ugly, tough decisions, meaning it's not easy to make this league. It's not easy to make this Jazz roster, Spence, moving forward to what they want to become. And that is like the longevity of like the Golden State Warriors, which is ridiculous, but yet, one player, one coach has been the centerpiece of that with some help like Draymond, and Klay Thompson's now in Dallas. But look, that was a formidable force. The Splash Brothers were the real deal. But I think that the next 10 to 15 games are really important, because I think at the end of the season, like some of it may be cleanup minutes, you know what I mean? In the sense of you'll get your minutes, but I'm not sure who else is playing with the opposition, right? I mean, the league's become that because they now jockey for position, whether it's a playoff spot or a play-in. I think it's something the league personally needs to really dive deep into to keep it competitive. But we saw Bryce explode late last year because he got minutes. We saw him go on a tear and score, 95 in 3 games. And then he became ill and kind of got off his hot streak. But I'm with you. Flip has moments. Sensabaugh has moments. Cody has become a player that you have to kind of go, okay, I'm not quite ready to make a decision. Taylor, I think people are probably going, wow, this is a tough time for him to take a dip and fall out of the rotation. And last night, 0 for 4 in just limited minutes. I think Will keeps telling us in the press, Spence, is that he wishes some of those minutes he could distribute more, even though there are young players getting high-level minutes. But there's a few, as you just mentioned, Taylor, not getting 20 instead of 12. That's what he's getting. And so the evaluation process may be tougher. Plus, he's coming off the injury, and they didn't want to be too judgmental with him, and the ankle and the leg that let go on him on his rookie year. So I'd hate to be in that chair to make some of these decisions on who has to go and who isn't in our plans. But I think we're going to start seeing it kind of maybe become more clear, I guess is the point, over the next, 10 to 20 games and how they're going to play it, down the stretch. Because those minutes are valuable in the continuing process of development, even for Keontae, and especially for Ace and Flip and Collier. And you said it, Bryce has a special skill set. I like the way he can use his 6'6" frame to go to the rim. I think he's more confident, Spence, in the paint now than just being a three-point shooter. And if he can develop a combination of those skills and be consistent, he's a valuable commodity to have, man, in my book.
Yeah. And again, only time will tell. That's why this is a process that has been, carefully crafted. And now we got to see whether or not the improvement of some are real, I should say, or we can get a couple of other players that kind of stand out. But it's a long process, man. So I know that you and Thurl are doing a good job to make sure that the broadcasts are entertaining. You sound great as always. And it's always fun when Stephen Wardell Curry is in the building. So have a great call tonight, Bowler, okay?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to see what Steph's got up his sleeve. He's only averaged, Spence, by the way, just for fun, 31 in the first two games this season. And people have to remember, number one all-time NBA three-point makes, Steph Curry. Unbelievable player.
Get there early and watch him warm up. It's like an incredible thing.
People line up, as you've seen. It's incredible to see Warrior fans that come out to watch this guy, and he puts on a ridiculous show. I mean, the three-point shot's real. Half court, no big deal. Three-quarter, he'll give it a run or two. But he's a great pro, first and foremost, and I like the way he engages with his fan base around the league. And it's always fun to watch him go because you never know when he can pull. He can turn it on and off, Spence, as you know. And usually we see him turn the switch up in the second half, and I expect to see the same tonight.
Well, have a good call, buddy. Appreciate the time, okay?
Hey, anytime. Take care, pal.
Craig Bowler-Jack, Jazz taking on the Golden State Warriors tonight. All right, experience the heart-pounding thrill of PBR, not the beer, professional bull riding at the Delta Center, because that's what it's called. It's called the Delta Center, February 6th and the 7th. Tune in to the Sean O'Connell Show at noon for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the event. More details can be found at ESPN700sports.com. We'll catch a break. Stay here. Tony Parks joins us coming up. Once again, as the show rolls along, Melissa from Sound Sleep Medical joins us live in studio. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Doing great.
All right. So we are helping people that might be suffering from sleep apnea. Let's start with the process that you're offering this for free. But what is the sleep screening? What exactly is it? How does it work?
Okay, really good question. What you'll do is swing by one of our offices. We have 6. You'll pick up a little kit of equipment to take to your own bed, your own pillow. It involves a strap around your chest to measure things like your heart rate, a pulse oximeter on your finger, and then a little cannula to measure breathing that goes up to your nose. This is at home in your own bed, but it is a full comprehensive sleep screening. And it's free. You know, a lot of people haven't done a sleep screening because they're expensive, 1, and 2, they don't want to go to a hospital or a lab and sleep somewhere strange where people are kind of watching them. This is a great way to get it done. And frankly, if you're 40 and over and you've never done a sleep screening, you're kind of late to the game.
What are the benefits that you've seen from your clients who have gone through the sleep screening and utilized this non-invasive alternative to a CPAP? What sort of benefits do they see?
Okay, so immediate benefits, Spence, would be just they feel so much better when they wake up. You know, it's hard to be tired all day long. They wake up, they actually feel good. They've got the energy to kind of engage in their relationships and their jobs, more like mental clarity. It helps with focus and concentration. And then it's just really important to treat it because there's long-term health issues that can be linked to apnea.
And as I referenced, this is not a CPAP, so tell us what it is.
Yeah, this is a custom-made oral appliance. It's just a mouth guard you wear, but it's the perfect size, perfect fit for you. We're going to do a 3D digital image of your teeth. real, legit medical device that can go through your health insurance. If you've met your deductible or if you have HSA, FSA you need to spend, take advantage. Get in. See us now. Don't push it to the end of the year.
And what's the special offer you have for our listeners who give you a call today?
Okay, the number to call, 801-335-9824. If it's more convenient, go online. You can find us at soundsleepmedical.com. Schedule an appointment there. But we're offering a free sleep screening, so this is the test you get to do at home. Bring it back to us. We'll download it, give you that report in a consultation with one of our sleep specialists. Also free, completely no obligation.
But you got to call today. So take advantage of the offer and pick up the phone and dial 801-335-9824. That's 801-335-9824, 801-335-9824, or online at soundsleepmedical.com. Locations Clearfield, Murray, Sandy, American Fork, Provo, and St. George. Melissa, thanks so much.
Thanks.
I think Where You Going is a apropos song for our next guest who's always on the road somewhere, calling games or heading back to his hometown of Chicago. Local radio legend Tony Parks is sitting across from me. Hello, young man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Why do you call me young man? Is it just because
I'm older than you are.
barely? Not by a lot. Like what, 5 years, maybe?
That's a lot.
Okay.
Well, what are you, 43?
Yep, nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I have my birthday's in March, so I have about a month and a half left of being able to say I'm in my mid 40s.
Oh.
And then I have to admit that I'm about to turn 48.
Okay.
So yeah, about 5 years.
I like it, man.
That's old enough to say young man.
Okay.
Isn't it?
I'm fine with it. You know, I'm not going to reject it, but I've always been like, when Gordon would be like,
Yeah.
Look, you're a young guy. I was in college when you were born.
I love our Gordon impersonations just sound like somebody chewing on marbles.
Well, I don't know what you guys were thinking. You guys need to get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah, good old Gordon. We've been trying to get him on. It's been a
love
while,
that,
man.
dude.
Gordon's the best. How you been, man? What's the update?
Yeah, I've been so good, man. I really love it. This college football schedule or college basketball schedule I've had this year is just so much fun. A number of different games. Last night I had Utah, West Virginia, doing a lot of the women's games with the legend Elaine Elliott. That has been, what a joy, man.
And she is a legend. Let's be very clear.
You better believe it.
Let's be very
man.
clear.
Hall of Famer, 4-time Coach of the Year. You look at what Fern Gardner did at the University of Utah, and then to hand it off to Elaine Elliott and watching her excel with it the way that she did on the brink of the Final Four. And I told her this to her face, by the way. That team you had no business being in the Final Four, and you had them on the brink. And I mean that as a compliment to her because her coaching was really what brought them to that point. She was outstanding. And so anyway, we've had great conversations on the air, and I'm excited to be a part of her celebration they're going to have Valentine's Day. It's 2:00 game. Great time to come out with the fam. So join us at the Huntsman Center for that. I'm just so honored to have that, and then all the other ESPN games. Joe Cravens, who I know you've had in here
in studio.
Yep,
man.
He and I have. Man, we're the same. You love it when, because you and I are this way too. You're the same on the air as you are off the air.
Yeah,
the jokes, the humor, the interaction. So I've been very spoiled with all the college basketball stuff I've had.
Since you called the game last night, good win for Coach Pete's team, and the Utah women never trailed, right? And they beat West Virginia, top 25 team. So good win for the Utah women's hoops team.
Yeah, it was a great bounce back too. They had a really poor performance against Texas Tech over the weekend. And then the one thing I love about that entire staff, they're just tough, man. They instill toughness. They're always evolving. They're always improving, and they've beaten top 10 teams, top 25 teams, and they still have some youth and some inexperience on that roster, and they're still able to prevail. So exciting to see them get the win the way they did last night. Terrific execution. They're a fun team to watch, and it's been a joy to be around them.
So, Tony, we are on YouTube, okay? So Tony is very brave today on our YouTube channel. We also, Porter, did you set the dog camera up? Is this a real thing? It looks like we have a dog camera up, yeah?
Yeah, Duke's the star at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, Tony is very clearly sporting Michigan paraphernalia.
Indeed. So what's your dog's name?
Lovey.
Lovey. So that's right, Lovey Smith. So we've got Lovey and Duke. If you want to tune in on YouTube, Porter has set up a dog camera. But Tony is also being very brave as he is wearing very proudly a University of Michigan winter cap and T-shirt. And I don't know if you heard, Michigan football has a new head coach.
Yes.
And
I'm quite excited about this.
Some folks around here still are kind of up in their feelings since you and I last spoke. We know that the final tally is 6 coaches following Kyle to Ann Arbor and 5 players total, 4 who played on the team last year and 1 who was the number 1 recruit in Utah in Celeste Moa. We had Casey Evans in studio this week. Casey is now the head coach of the Olympus Titans football team.
Oh, yeah.
Former U defensive back.
Huge fan of that guy.
And he said Kyle and his staff have been all over the state offering all of the best prospects opportunities to go to Michigan, which is part of the job, as we know. But there are people around here that still are a little bit in their feelings about this whole thing. Tony, I don't know if you've noticed.
Yes. They definitely are. First of all, it is a Michigan basketball shirt, so
fair enough.
I'm excited about the win last night. You know,
They're good, man.
They're very good.
They're good this year.
They've got a real shot to win the whole thing. And the Big Ten is great. And that game last night, I got home for my game and watched the Michigan-Nebraska game. It was awesome. Michigan State on Friday is going to be a good time. So I'm excited about that. I mean, I'm happy about Michigan's football team, but I understand that you didn't bring me on here so I could get excited about their tough schedule and if they can go 10-2 and go to the playoffs. That's not what this discussion is.
But you think they can.
It's
not a tough schedule, let's be clear.
100%.
Is it 7 home games?
Yes,
Okay.
but they do have, It's Indiana, Oregon. I mean, they have some tough games.
I actually think it sets – and look, I want to be clear. I'm very much on the side of hoping this goes incredibly well for Kyle.
Yeah.
But when I was looking at their schedule, I felt like it actually set up – and look, I think 10 wins would be an amazing accomplishment year one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have to pull it back up. But I felt like the schedule actually sets up pretty nicely for Witt's first year in the Big Ten.
Okay, so New Mexico is excuse me. Let me reset that. Western Michigan. Then it's Oklahoma at home. UTEP at home. Iowa at home. Man, we're like Duke basketball here.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Iowa's, you can't roll out of bed and beat them, but you get them at home, and you're the better team, and you should beat them. At Minnesota, Saturday, October 3rd, I'm going to that one.
Nice. Good.
Yep, definitely going to that one. And then the bye week, October 10th. Okay, then Penn State, but at home.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana at home.
Mm-hmm.
So Indiana's going to be the toughie there, no doubt. Then you go at Rutgers, Michigan State at home, at Oregon.
You are at Autzen.
At Ohio State.
Okay, so you got Autzen in the horseshoe.
I think they have 7 they should win. You have 4 you should split. That's 10-2.
Okay.
If 6 you should win. No, 8 you should win, 4 you should split. Because I look at Autzen tough, at Ohio State, those are tough. Indiana at home, Oklahoma at home.
Now, you can't roll out of bed and yawn through Penn State, but year one under Matt Campbell, I feel like Kyle should have the advantage there.
You should have the advantage.
Yeah.
No, like if Kyle goes 8-4, nobody's going to allow him to explain that and be like, well, they were this and they were that. Nope. It's not how it works. And by the way, Kyle knows this.
Oh, of course.
Kyle's not coming into this going, hey, let's be patient here. It's year one. No, Kyle understands. There's national championship implication or playoffs. If you're not going to the playoffs, that fan base is not going to be cool with it. Now, as for Utah, I have said this before and I will say it again. There is this what's going on with Michigan and Michigan coming in and Michigan trying to take players. I've told you before, I'm not worried about Morgan Scalley in the big picture when it comes to Utah football. I'm not. They have had coaches who are ready for these opportunities. Morgan's one of them, by the way. Morgan's ability to oversee a program, I do think that there's going to be an acclimation. So I don't think he's going to hit the ground running the same way Kyle would after 20-something years. But look at the way Kyle had to walk into the Urban era with empty cupboards and a 17-year-old quarterback and starting all over. And I don't think he's exactly doing that being Morgan. So I've said it before. I'll say it again. I do think the future of Utah football is still bright. I don't buy into this, oh my goodness, how are they ever going to recover from it? No matter what the emotions are telling people for something like that. I'm a huge believer in it because, Morgan, this is personal for him. When a job's personal to you, it is different. I can just tell you right now, I've had jobs where, hey, I enjoy doing it. And then I've had jobs where it's personal. It matters to me. There's something inside of me that I can't explain. And a lot of my play-by-play work, personal. Even being on the air with you, personal. Yes, people do not know the chapters that go back and the history you and I have. And it's different when I see you. So I'm excited when I'm look forward to it every time.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Morgan Scalley and Utah football, it's personal. So he's going to do the things. He's going to do what it takes. Not only does he have the expertise, he has the level of commitment to do what it takes. And so there's just too much under the surface that we don't know. So when we see something on the surface, we can't automatically assume that it is going to detract towards negativity for Morgan Scalley in Utah.
100%. And since you and I last spoke, we do have not just Michigan's schedule, but we now have the Big 12 schedule as well for all of these teams. The first takeaway is that if you are a Texas Tech fan, you can go ahead and book your hotel for December the 4th in Arlington because they don't play anybody.
that.
They just don't.
I was like, okay, so they just got an automatic bid.
Yeah, like they avoid Utah and BYU, and their 4 toughest opponents are all in Lubbock. Like, barring some sort of catastrophic Utah football from 2 years ago injury situation for Texas Tech, you can just simply Sharpie them in to the Big 12 championship game. So that's number one. But number two, if we move over to Utah's schedule, they also avoid Texas Tech. They get BYU at home. And when you look at it, the November is going to be, and we're going to get to it was announced today, all the games that are played on November the 7th that Utah, BYU are going to go head-to-head against, which kind of sucks. But November is going to really be very telling. The non-con is unbelievably manageable. All 3 games are at home. Idaho, Arkansas, who won 0 games last year in conference, and, we've seen one-year turnarounds. Bronco Mendenhall is going to make you play. You're going to have to play against Utah State. If Bronco Mendenhall brings his football team to your stadium, you're going to have to make sure that you're ready to go, but I'm sure they're going to be fine against Utah State. At Iowa State, no Matt Campbell, brand new staff, brand new players. You get Kansas at home, which is good because they're one of the teams that actually will have a quarterback returning. You're at Colorado. Who knows what they're going to look like. Houston's kind of sneaky good, but you get them at home. At Cincinnati, they lose the Sorsby kid. You get BYU at home. And then you have to travel to Arizona, which could get tricky, and then travel to TCU. The 3 games in November prior to the West Virginia game, which is the last one, BYU at home, then Arizona and TCU on the road. To me, that 3-game stretch will tell you what Utah football can do this year.
It'll likely determine how you're going to feel about the entire season. That's likely going to be it. And what are those teams going to look like? We don't know. Are the Houston Cougars randomly going to have this breakout season? Like in this NIL world right now, Spence, you can't really get a gauge on what team could just burst out of nowhere. Nebraska basketball is really good this year. I mean, I know we just talked about them. I never in my wildest dreams imagined Nebraska basketball and Indiana football would be this good ever.
Yeah.
So in this era, there's a lot of things that are going to tell the story about how this thing is going. So I like I said, when it comes to who do you have leading your program, what are they really all about? What kind of background do they have? And then you go into what is it that they have at their disposal to be successful. And I think Morgan Scally has all of that and more. And I don't think that he's coming in here like your usual first-time head coach. He's just not.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that, and every head coach will tell you, you just don't get it until you're in that seat. Totally fine. There's this first year, he's going to have those moments. Every coach does. But it will be, some of that damage, I think, will be minimized compared to what I think people are fearing. And so while the emotions might be there about Kyle's coming and Michigan's in our backyard and, everybody is. Everybody's reaching into this state to try and get players and trying to bring them where they're going to bring them. That's part of the deal, is you're going to have to compete against really good coaches to keep your talent here locally.
Yeah.
And NIL means you're going to have to compete financially to keep really good talent. And how you manage your program is going to be everything. I mean, you think Indiana had every advantage in the world? No. How did they win? Culture, coaching, established great alignment from athletic department to coaches to players. I mean, you cannot be more aligned than that group right there.
Masterclass is what it was.
That's insane. I still think they're the greatest story. I don't care. Indiana football 2025 is the best story. I mean, it's epic.
Yeah.
We all love to talk the talk when it comes to team and togetherness and all that. No stars. I mean, just 2 stars and below everywhere. The doormat of the Big Ten and of Power 5, now Power 4 college football. And all it took was a guy to walk in there and say, let's put all the BS over here and let's make this all about football. Championship. Really?
I remember, it's remarkable. I agree with you. And I think a lot of tenured college football media members have said the same thing. Like, no, we need to stand up and acknowledge and recognize. And I don't feel like we're very good at this societally because we move on to the next thing. I honestly am constantly trying to make sure that I stay in the moment when I'm seeing something historically special.
Yes.
Instead of just saying, okay, another championship, what Curt Cignetti did is unprecedented in the history of this sport. I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. And it should give people confidence that no matter who your football program has been, the modern landscape of the game allows who you can be is something that, as long as you have the right things in place, you can turn this thing around in 1 year and win championships. I know all of the things that people complain about pertaining to the modern day and age of college football, but there is a compelling argument to be made that it really has benefited the sport in a lot of ways.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because now every program has to say, whatever we're complaining about extrinsically, we need to shut up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had every reason to say, well, we don't have Ohio State money, Michigan money. We don't have the talent in this state that, Florida has, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the extrinsic excuse is, you can't use it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to say, how do we make sure in these hallways, in these doors, that we are the most perfect version of ourselves that we can be?
Right.
And until that's handled, we can't ever look outward.
Yeah.
And every program in the country, why not Utah and Morgan Scalley and everybody else to say, why couldn't that be us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There isn't an answer.
No, there's not. And I'll tell you what, man, the Mendoza kid, his second start at Cal was here. And I can remember, and that was a good Utah team, so I'm not trying to crack on him. But I was at the game, and I remember watching. I'm like, this kid is awful. He can't play. Like, he sucks. He's not a good QB. And that was his only his second start at Cal, and he had taken over for an injured player at the time. But for all the love that Kirk Cignetti gets and deserves, the meteoric rise of and how Mendoza went about this entire thing, and he's about to be the number 1 pick in the draft, and just seems like this sweet kid who just put in the work, and the right system was put in place. I will admit to doing the thing that a lot of us do, which is the brand bias. Like, there's no way Indiana is good. Like last year when they started playing well in their top 20, I'm like, all right. What? But
one off. That's what I thought.
But it's Indiana. They're a basketball school. Then this year they start beating teams like Wade. Pay attention. When I locked in and started watching this kid play, I was like, he's awesome. Like, if you're a Raiders fan, I think you should be thrilled. I think he's going to be a great pro. I really do.
And I mean, environment really matters. Environment's not everything, but your environment really matters.
Yep.
Who's the starting quarterback in the Super Bowl for the Seahawks?
The one that got away from my Jets.
Uh-huh. And was there ever a day, because I can answer this confidently that I didn't see this, was there ever a day when he was in a Jets uniform that you thought, if you just put him in a different environment, this guy would take a team to the Super Bowl, number 1 seed?
I always thought
I wouldn't have thought that.
I thought there was something there with him.
Really?
Well, it just like this comes from my New York Jet fan prism. He's the only QB we've had where you could see some moments. Look, nobody saw this coming. He's the first USC quarterback to start in a Super Bowl, by the way, which is
strange,
so weird.
with all the names they've had. Yeah.
But I never saw with Zach. Like, I watched Zach play college ball, and I'm not trying to knock on the kid. I'm like, what are you doing? There's no chance that's going to work. And the BYU fan narrative sounds a lot like Jimmer Fredette, where it's like he never played for he played for the Spurs. He played for the Knicks. He played for Popovich. He played for good coaches. Jimmer just wasn't an NBA guy.
Thibodeau.
Yeah, he played for incredible coaches.
You want to blame Keith Smart, fine, but Mike Malone.
But at this point, Sean Payton has had his hands on Zach. Mike McDaniels has had his, he's just not an NFL guy.
Right.
But Sam was the one quarterback that I thought, okay, right system. And I want Penny from Minnesota Vikings fans' thoughts at this point, by the way. I do respect your guy, JJ.
Oh, yeah.
For letting Sam get away.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's my favorite part about the Jimmer example to that was, okay, the Kings are not great. Keith Smart's not great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more to this than just his environment.
Of
Guys,
course.
I hate to say this, my goodness. But then there was I remember the day I said on the air, I thought Jimmer could have a career like Eddie House.
Which would have been such a win.
That's what and when I said that, you would have thought I said this guy could not start on a church ball team. I mean, the vicious reaction.
As long as he's not playing zone.
No,
man to man. That's what we do. Yeah.
But the viciousness that I got in return, I'm going, whoa, I thought I complimented him. And people were like, are you kidding? Eddie House? There's no way he'll be that bad. And I'm going, whoa. So then when he goes to the Kings, and I know that Keith Smart wasn't a great coach, and I get that. But when Mike Malone was there, I'm like, no, Mike's trying to work with something here, and this organization's dysfunctional. But there was a media member, because when Jimmer was in town, it'd be packed with visiting people around the visiting coach. And anyway, he was asked about Jimmer. Why isn't Jimmer playing more is essentially what he was asked. And Mike Malone was one of my favorite coaches ever to cover.
Yeah.
He was so direct and honest. And he looks and he goes, because he's not good enough.
Right.
He goes, he's not good enough. He's missing this. He's missing this. He's got to get better.
Yeah.
I can't play him until he gets better.
Yeah. But by the way,
everybody was so mad.
But it's so good. It's so Mike Malone, who is so good on TV. I still can't believe they fired him.
Oh, yeah.
But the Fredette stuff got so wild. And so BYU fans that still believe, like, well, if Zach Wilson had, like, congrats on your $25 million. Apparently bought a bunch of chip cookie franchises. I hope that works out.
It's going to be great.
But Fredette played for Mike Malone, Tom Thibodeau, Monty Williams, Igor Kokoskov. He played for some of the best offensive-minded coaches, and, of course, Tom Thibodeau, defensive-minded coach, that were coaching during that time. If he was good enough, he would have found a lane. Now, I give him credit for – because I've changed my whole, like, bust this, bust that thing. Jimmer Fredette is a millionaire who spent 12 years playing professional basketball. Good for him, but he just was never going to be an NBA guy. And it's kind of the same thing with the Zach stuff. But you know who – for BYU fans out there, the first person to tell me that Jimmer Fredette was not going to be an NBA player was Danny Ainge.
Whoa.
And it was during the tournament when Fredette was putting like 50 on San Diego State. It was during the Mountain West Conference tournament that Fredette was dominating. And it was in Vegas, and I ran into Danny. He said, hey, come watch the game with me. So I left my media seat. I went up, and I sat next to Danny Ainge. And I was the one who was like, dude, I think Jimmer's got a chance now to, like, be a really legit NBA guy. You know, he developed that quick twitch, inside-out double crossover, pull-up. I'm like, he's no longer like a spot-up guy. Like, he can really shoot it off the bounce. He can handle. And I said, what do you think? And he looked at me and said, no shot. Doesn't have a chance. And so we walked through this exercise where he was pointing out, and I was like, yeah, he doesn't guard. He's like, no. He never gets in a stance. Watch him. And he didn't, because Dave put him on top of a 2-3 zone.
Jackson never.
Right, but Jackson could guard a little bit.
Jackson was the man.
Right, but Dave put Jimmer on top of a 2-3 zone and clearly was like, hey, we need 40 from you, so do not spend any energy guarding at all. And so Danny kind of walked me through the whole thing. And so when it didn't work out, I was like, Danny called it. And this is BYU's own Danny Ainge was the one who told me he didn't think Fredette was a pro.
No, there really is. It was glaring. And then right up the road, I was working a lot of Weber State games and stuff like that. And Damian Lillard was there. And I was big on Dame.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, okay, am I too close to it? Because I kept thinking, I think he's a draft pick. And then I remember the day that I started saying, I think he could be a first round, late at best.
You're talking Damian.
Yeah. This is the ceiling. This is this. I really feel like he could be that. And we brought Crispy Haynes on the air. I'll never forget this. And I said, what are your thoughts on that? And Chris was like, all right, man, you're getting a little too carried away.
Okay, so he hasn't watched him.
Chris goes to the Chicago pre-draft camp, calls me on the phone, and goes, okay, man, not only was I wrong, you're wrong. And I'm like, wait, what? And he goes, no, this is a lottery pick.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lottery pick. Tony, Damian Lillard's a lot. I'm like, no. He goes, he's a lottery pick.
Yeah.
Well, he was sixth or whatever. And I kept holding on thinking, am I too close to it? And I was wildly underrating just how good he was. Meanwhile, isn't it crazy? Like at the same time Jimmer Mania was going on, which it should have been. I mean,
it was awesome.
BYU was doing things they hadn't done in a long time.
He was so fun in college.
And he was exciting.
Yeah.
But it was Damian Lillard up the road who didn't take that team to a tournament.
Right.
But was going to go on to have what I think is a Hall of Fame NBA career.
One of my big regrets, and I'll always hold this, is not getting up there to see him more. Because I can remember we had Randy on the show. We had Randy Ray as coach on the show. And he said to us, well, I've got a lottery pick. I've got a top 10 pick here. You guys need to come see Damian. I went up to one game at Weber State to watch Damian Lillard play. And Randy told us, but that's one of the regrets I'll always hold on to.
My favorite is when I get people like, I loved watching him at Weber State. I'm like, you weren't there.
Yeah.
There was like 1,500 people at these games.
I went to one game, man. It was a bummer. All right, coming up next, we're going to get back to, I want to revisit this Morgan Scalley quote with you that I've been talking about from his presser. Since you and I last spoke, news broke that Utah's getting both of their quarterbacks back, so we'll get into that. I have BYU schedule up as well. Oh, we need to talk a little college basketball because we've had a couple of. I know you say you think Michigan can win it, and I think they can too. Mm-hmm. Have you watched Arizona?
Yeah.
Ooh. So we'll get to that coming up. Since Tony is in studio, we will talk Pitbull. Pitbull is taking over the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on June the 3rd. I know you're a big fan, aren't you?
Better believe it, man.
All right. Tune in weekdays at 1:30 this week for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the show. More details can be found on ESPN700sports.com.
Yeah.
Show rolling along today. Our
So we'll
friend
get to
Melissa
that
from
coming up.
Sound
We'll get
Sleep
to that
Medical
coming
live
up.
in studio. Hello, Melissa. How are
Since
you?
Tony is
Doing
in
great.
Studio,
So
we will talk
if
Pitbull.
we have a listener out
Pitbull
there
is taking over the
that
Utah
they may
First
not
Credit
even
Union
know it, but
Amphitheater on
their
June
wife
the 3rd.
tells
I know
them
you're a
they're
big fan, aren't
snoring
you?
or their friends are like,
Tune in
dude,
weekdays
roll
at
over. I
1:30
can't sleep
this
if
week
we're
for your
hanging out in the
chance
same
to
room.
win a pair
What
of
does
tickets to the
snoring
show. More
indicate? What's the most likely issue you're running into if you're snoring a lot at night?
Okay, great question. Snoring is much more than just an annoying noise. Maybe you're sleeping in separate rooms from your partner, but maybe you're single and you think, gosh, who cares? No one hears my snoring. What's the big deal? Well, Spence, snoring is a symptom that means your airway is too narrow. So then when you breathe, those tissues can kind of flap or vibrate against each other. What people don't realize is that the noise is an indication that your oxygen is likely too low during the night. And that's not good. Obviously, low oxygen is not good for our body. It affects our heart, our brain, and actually our metabolism as well.
And, as a result of what you guys are doing, this non-invasive alternative to a CPAP, what sort of benefits have you seen from clients that come in and utilize your services?
Okay, it's such an easy fix, too. If you have sleep apnea, we're going to fix it just with this oral appliance, which is a mouth guard you wear during the night. But talking about metabolism, if you're working out, lifting weights, you feel like you're dieting, doing everything right, and you just can't slim down. You can't drop those pounds. It could be that your sleep apnea that you've let go untreated is actually affecting your metabolism. Things like blood sugar levels, stress hormones, it can really make losing weight harder.
And this device is covered by a warranty and also covered by most major medical insurances, correct?
Yeah, this is a legit proven medical device, this oral appliance. So that's the great news is you likely have a health insurance benefit that's going to help you pay for it. This time of year, we're meeting our deductibles, or if you have HSA or flex spending you need to use, take advantage of that. And if you're unlucky there, we actually do offer 0% financing for up to 2 years for those who need it.
Very nice. What's the special offer, Melissa, you have for our listeners who give you a call today?
Call right now. The number is 801-335-9824. If it's more convenient, go online, schedule an appointment at soundsleepmedical.com. We've got 6 different offices, but by doing that right now during the show, you're going to get the free sleep screening, which is the test you get to do at home in your own bed. Bring it back to us. We'll download it, give you a sleep report and an explanation with the sleep specialist. All of that free, no obligation.
But you have to call today. So here's the number. It's 801-335-9824. That's 801-335-9824. 801-335-9824. Online at soundsleepmedical.com. Locations in Clearfield, Murray, Sandy, American Fork, Provo, and St. George. Melissa, thanks so much.
Thank you.
For our YouTube viewers, we have a Michigan fan in the studio. So as the home of the Utes, we need to apologize, but we love our guy Tony Parks. Was this intentional? Were you trying to troll today?
No, it was cold, and the other thing was the Michigan basketball. It was just basketball.
Yes,
I wasn't
Dusty
doing
May.
this over the football stuff. That's in the back. That's we're not even in season.
You
right
never
now.
know. Ute fans and their feelings. We also have Dog Cam in the house
Yes,
as
we are.
Lovey and Duke are hanging out.
They're getting along, by the way.
They are. Duke's a sweetheart. Sean's dog was in here earlier. Sean's dog is built like a lion, and so Duke was a little bit. Sean's dog, I think, is 140 pounds and is a puppy. Duke is fully grown and probably 55, 60 pounds. Okay. So I like that your dog is similar size, so they can hang out and play together. Let's do a little more college football. Then I want to move over to the college basketball space. November 7th of next year. Well, technically of this year, of next year's college football slate. So the walking line from the Big 12, because I believe Utah BYU should be played. I would love it if it was the last game of the season like it used to be. It was always my favorite thing. I love the buildup. And we'll get into this because, of course, being conference peers now, there's a lot that's at stake. And there will be a lot that's at stake with this game, but it's not the final game of the season. It is on November 7th. And the walking line from the Big 12 is we want it to kind of stand on its own and be like our rivalry game to kind of shine instead of put it where the other rivalries are played. Well, on November 7th of this year, Oregon is at Ohio State. Miami is at Notre Dame. Alabama is at LSU. Georgia is at Ole Miss. And BYU is at Utah. 5 games that day. And if you're the Big 12, you wanted to show off your shiny toy, BYU, Utah. And if I had to guess, out of those 5 games, it will be the least watched nationally. Your thoughts?
It should be the final game of the year. I think it would work really well on Thanksgiving weekend. I don't care if you put it on Friday. I think there's a good place to put it on one of the Friday slates, and I think it should be showcased in that way. Utah versus BYU, and I always have to tell friends in the Midwest and things like that, I'm like, it's among the most unique. It has every bit of the hatred that Ohio State and Michigan have. It has different hatred. I think it has the most unique elements to it, right? Because you have the religion, you have the private versus the public university, you have the crossover with the coaches. I mean, you have just all these layers of it. I'm like, you don't really know. It's like it's also personal in a unique way. Whereas Ohio State, Michigan's personal because the athletic departments hate each other, coaches hate each other. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I'm like, this one, it's the in-laws, it's the guy down the hall at work. Who knows where that rivalry actually comes in. But for each person, it's unique and different. I think it is a shame that it is not put on Thanksgiving weekend, not because it's just where I prefer it. I look at the entire landscape, college football, big picture, and I think it is the rivalry that should be getting a lot more respect than it does. And I think it would be watched even more often than people would understand because the games are good. You have versatility in its time slot that you could place it in. And I think you would usually have those two playing for some sort of implication in some sort of way like they would have this past year for the possibility of being in the Big 12 championship.
And that's a great point. I'm glad you ended on that one because that's where I wanted to move to next. There is a chance, and it is impossible to say on January the 28th what's going to happen in a college football season. We went over Utah's schedule last segment, but if you look at BYU's schedule, like Utah, they avoid Texas Tech. There's a chance that Saturday, November 7th, here in Salt Lake City, BYU Utah is a virtual play-in game to the Big 12 championship. Because as we talked about last segment, if you're a Texas Tech fan, go ahead and book your hotel in Arlington for Friday, December the 4th. Tech, Abilene Christian at Oregon State, Houston at home, Sam Houston at Colorado. Their hardest games are Arizona State at home, Arizona at home, TCU at home. Okay, so they'll be at Baylor, they'll be at Oklahoma State, West Virginia's at home, Arizona's at home, as I referenced. Sharpie them in. Texas Tech is going, okay? So when you look at BYU's schedule, they'll have a very difficult non-conference task against one of the best teams in college football next year in Notre Dame. It is in Provo, But they can lose that because Notre Dame will be probably a top 5 team all year, and it really won't sting them. Okay, they are at TCU, which could get tricky. They're at Utah, of course, but no, BYU's schedule, like Utah's schedule, lines up where Saturday, November 7th could be a virtual play-in game to the Big 12 championship, but both teams will have 3 games after that.
It's a joke.
Can you imagine if on Saturday, November the 28th, instead of Cincinnati for BYU and West Virginia for Utah, they were playing each other, where we already knew that it was Texas Tech and the winner of that game goes to Arlington? Can you imagine the gravity that game would pull?
Well, what a failure by the conference, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What an absolute failure. Name me a better rivalry that you have in your conference right now.
It doesn't exist.
You don't have it.
No.
That is and it's not Arizona State.
Nope.
It's not. That is the rivalry. You should be hyping it up. It should be touted. It should be showcased. It should be featured. I mean, look at all the other conferences. They have rivalries that they can put center stage and say, Thanksgiving weekend, this is the game you want to watch.
Yep.
This is the one on the big Fox or the big CBS, if you will, or the big, here it is, Fox Big Noon, whatever it is. And maybe this game doesn't end up on Fox Big Noon, but on your Thanksgiving weekend, this should be the one that takes center stage. And instead, you're not.
Yeah.
And why in the world you'd put it November 7th, I have no idea. And when they started doing this, I thought, well, okay, it doesn't bother me that much, but just for my own personal thing, not only should you put it there, but for your own benefit.
Yeah.
Who do you have anymore?
Yeah.
You don't have Ohio State, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have Auburn, Alabama. You don't have Texas, Oklahoma. You don't have some of these. So you can't do this whole let's spread this thing out and, we'll have these big rivalries kind of here and there. No. Thanksgiving weekend. That's where it belongs. Put it on Friday. Put it in the afternoon. Put it, make it attractive for some of these networks to say, wow, that's a good one we can use. Because those two teams, more times than not, are going to be right up there. To your point, you can look at it. You can't predict it. Maybe a team has a clunker. Who knows? But you do know it's most likely these two teams are going to have quality seasons, and there's going to be something on the line there. Maybe an at-large bid. Maybe a chance to play in the conference championship game. Maybe a chance for a first-round bye. Who knows? But you don't have another rivalry in this entire conference or any other matchup that moves the meter the way that one does.
And your walking line was we wanted to have that game shine. That's what they told us.
And
that's what they told us. We wanted to show off that game as our best rivalry. And now it's going up against Oregon, Ohio State, Miami, Notre Dame, Alabama, LSU, and Georgia Ole Miss.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, last year it was great because this thing was, 8 o'clock Eastern? On Fox. Right? Okay.
Yep.
But if this thing gets buried 8:15 on ESPN or ESPN2, you should be furious.
Yeah.
That's a failure. Because there was a real chance that was going to happen last year. You could see the way some games were lining up, and you're going, if you end up with this thing on the back burner, you missed badly.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Because you can't let that game fall there. So, no, I do wonder with the conference why they continue to do that, and we'll see if that ends up being profitable.
I teased this, so I wanted to get to it. I've read this a couple of times on the show, but since you and I last spoke on the program, we had Morgan's introductory press conference where he was just kind of introduced to the community. And if you're in the media space, I'm just lucky enough that he was a fraternity brother of mine. I've known him forever, so I know who he is. And you've interviewed him, I've interviewed him. But Morgan even said this during his presser. More often than not, you hear from the head coach. You don't hear from the assistants a ton. And so they kind of rolled it out, and it was perfectly Morgan. I don't think it could have gone better from the seat of getting to know Morgan Scalley. Didn't prepare anything, off the cuff, about 30, 40 minutes. But my favorite part of this, and I've read this a couple of times, was the following quote. Because there are a lot of people that are nervous about, hey, will this wit spoiled all of us? Are we going to continue to win and compete for conference championships? So Morgan says this, quote, change can be difficult for a lot of people. People leave an organization and there's doubt. There are fears and questions. Fear has a significant psychological impact on the mind. To the fearful, it's threatening because it means that things may get worse. For the hopeful, it's encouraging because things may get better. And to the confident, it's inspiring because the challenge exists to make it better. I'm confident and excited for the future.
Yeah.
When he said that, I was like, dude, drop your mic and get out of there. It was like, right on. It was perfect.
Uncertainty can cause doubt. There's no doubt. I keep telling all my Ute fan friends, if you treat this as Witt's first non-season, you'll be miserable. You'll over-examine everything. You'll be frustrated. You'll constantly be irritated at the entire year. If you treat it as Morgan's first year, not Witt's first non-season, then you actually have a chance to see what this new era is. If you stop comparing it and you just focus on what this new era is, you're going to start appreciating the involvement. You're going to start appreciating the identity, the culture, what his big vision is, because the games are going to be the games. And I don't think they're going to go 5-7. I also don't think they're going to go 11-1. But the point is, if you treat it appropriately, you're then going to enjoy this and then actually be a positive contributor if you're a season ticket holder. If you donate to the NIL initiatives and all that, then you have a chance to know that your money's being invested in people who care and are going to do everything they can, eat, sleep, and breathe, to be the very, very best. Mm-hmm. But if you go into it going, well, it's not like it was with Witt, with this and with that. And I always think back to the Utah-Arizona game. It was Witt's first game as head coach after the Fiesta Bowl season and all that. Mm-hmm. And they beat Arizona, and there was a big pick at the end. And I remember a really good friend of mine, big Ute fan, going, well, they're definitely not going to go back to a BCS game and do this. And I'm like, hold on, man. Wow. Like, you could feel that it was going to be something they didn't enjoy. So, in my opinion, Morgan's comment is perfect. And I think if the community and the fan base treats this appropriately, you have a chance to let year one become a good year two, become success in the future. But if you constantly keep looking in that rearview mirror, you're going to hinder, I think, what this program could be, because Morgan's ready to go all in forward.
Yeah.
But if everybody keeps trying to yank it backwards, it's going to feel like dragging a treasure chest through the desert.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get anybody anywhere.
Well, and the reality, and I always try to approach, talking about things like this through the prism of, okay, what's a reasonable thing to expect? Let's not get crazy and never tell a fan how to fan. I want you to have high expectations. I want you to really enjoy engaging with the team that you love and the community. That's why we're here, and that's why the game is played, for all of us to kind of gather around and enjoy it. But the harsh reality is they've got to rebuild an offensive line that was probably the best in the country. Mm-hmm. It was definitely the best in the Big 12, and if it wasn't the best in the country, it was one of the top 3 to 5. The stat that I saw that I just started laughing when I read it, Utah football led the country in yards per carry before contact last year, and it was like 3.5 yards before they were touched, right? And so Caleb Lomu, of course, Spencer Fano, Jaron Kump was in the Senior Bowls tonight, one of the bowl games. And then, you're replacing pretty much your entire offensive line, and for the most part, you're replacing a good portion of your defensive line. Your leading sacker, John Henry Daly, lives in Ann Arbor now. But since you and I last spoke, Bird Ficklin and Devin Dampier have decided to return under Kevin McGivern, the new offensive coordinator. So if you're looking for a silver lining, you get both these young quarterbacks back.
You're going to lose some. You're going to gain some. You are going to establish new identities with different people in different positions. I don't doubt that that's going to take acclimation. I don't doubt that there's going to be
for sure an
evolution to it. I don't doubt that at all. And I also don't doubt that you got the right guy in place to help speed some of that up. I just there's so much anxiety and I guess some the negativity that's come from the uncertainty. And I don't necessarily think it should be as warranted as people are. Now, I'm excited personally for my favorite football team with the coaching staff that they have. I don't necessarily think that their benefit is your loss. I think you're in an era where you can replace talent a lot easier than you used to. You're in an era where you can speed this process up. Now, if this was, 10 years ago and this was happening, I'd go, oh, yeah, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Spencer in trouble. They're going to have to rely on a freshman here, freshman there, backup here. Yeah, it's going to be tough. But now it's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
So, and I think Morgan is really good for this era where you're running it as an enterprise. You're running it as a business, like a pro sports team. And I'm curious to see how aggressive they'll be with this, private equity money that they have, and how aggressive they'll be on spending to bring in an influx of talent in this transition year of coaching.
Yeah, and we'll see if the economic model is one that can keep up. not with the Michigans of the world or the USCs of the world, but with the BYUs of the world and the Texas Techs of the world, because those are your conference foes. Now, both BYU and Texas Tech have proof of concept that their deep pockets have allowed them to go, yes, sometimes be the highest bidder and pay a lot of money to bring players in to play football and basketball. BYU's transfer portal class, according to On3, is ranked 15th in the country, which is very good. Now, they also have an incredible incoming class of high school recruits that is, at last check, I think, third in the Big 12. Utah is ranked 69th in the country, according to On3, with the transfer portal. Ironically, Michigan is 68th. I thought they'd be a little bit higher than that. So, the issue of trying to analyze what Utah's transfer portal class is going to look like is the people that do this for a living, because you and I were just talking off air. I'm not going to be the radio host that's going to come on air and say, hey, I have been smashing community college tape, so I'm going to tell you what this player looks like that's transferring to Utah. I don't know. I mean, the reality is a lot of these players that are transferring to play for Morgan Scalley are very unknown players from smaller schools. Now, we have proof of concept because Devin came from New Mexico, of course, Wei Sean, Jason Beck. So it is the model, but if you follow the rankings, the transfer portal additions that were made at this point aren't very highly thought of the people that analyze these things. Right. So I don't know. I'm just trying to set a reasonable level of expectation. If you're a Utah football fan, what does success look like year one under Morgan Scalley? I don't really know how to answer that. I guess it depends.
Right. I mean, I think there's a number of things. Let's say you go 9-3, and all 12 games you competed exceptionally well. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Let's say you go 10-2, and you were boat raced twice, and really the schedule, as you look back on it, you're like, you're pretty fortunate to go here and there. Like, Michigan last year went 9-3. I never thought they looked great. Mm-hmm. At one moment.
Yeah.
Schedule fell into their way. All 3 games against 3 teams that were, I think, really good.
Their head coach was a little distracted.
Yes. They were never in it.
Yeah.
Like, they were never even close.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot that goes into it. The biggest questions I always have about a program: who's running the show? What's the environment like that they're putting their players into? What's their ability to evaluate talent? What's their ability to develop talent? This state, like, let's think back to, if you look at the Sugar Bowl staff, if you look at the Fiesta Bowl staff, if you look at all of the history of Utah football, BYU football, go into Weber State, go into Utah State, go look at the coaches in this state when you looked at when they were a linebacker coach. And you're going, oh, wait, now he's the head coach of BYU football and winning 10 games in a season? Wow, threatening to go to the playoffs? I remember seeing Kalani Sitake at a press conference when he was getting promoted, and he was not the headliner of the press conference. But I remember him out there in his khakis and his polo shirt, and you know what I mean? And everybody's like, oh, yeah, he played. Who did he play for? Oh, he was a BYU. Oh, that's right, he was on that 96 team. But he was not like, watch out for that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, this state is littered with high-quality coaches, and I don't just say that because I'm here.
Yeah.
I say that because I'm around it, and I've watched really good coaches be coached by other great coaches and are ready for the opportunity to emerge, just like Jay Hill was, just like Kalani Sitake was, just like I saw a film of Kyle Whittingham, who was hired as Ron McBride's
with the mustache
D-line coach, and he's out there, he's like, oh, yeah, and it was great. It was awesome watching it because people are like, oh, Fred Whittingham's kid, cool. Little did you know what this guy was going to be, right?
Yeah.
So as we look at this time after time, I'm not saying all these guys who are ready for opportunities to emerge are going to bat 1,000, but this state has been really rich with coaches who've been waiting their time because they're sitting behind Jay Hill, because they're sitting behind Kalani, Kyle, Coach Beck, whoever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for them now to get their chance to shine.
You know what's wild? We had Colton Swan on this week, defensive coordinator for Utah. First of all, what a great dude. Just like an awesome guy, rising star. A lot of people have been high on him for a long, long time. And I knew this, but I don't think I fully understood the level of how many football fans in our state owe a very sincere thank you to Ron McBride, who, hired the majority of the best coaches that are still coaching, or promoted some of the coaches that are still coaching, or gave some of the coaches, I don't have the time to do this, nor do I really want to, but somebody out there in the ecosystem, maybe one of these bloggers that's really a fan but actually has a credential, should go back and do the Ron McBride coaching tree in its entirety, where it's I feel like all of them at some point coached with or for Ron McBride.
Yeah. It'd be the widest, deepest, like it would just keep
Everyone in the state,
branching
dude.
out.
Colton did, which I didn't realize, yeah.
Yeah. No, you look at it left and right, top to bottom. It's truly special what Ron did and what he, who he's been as a person. And I've been very blessed to have him, as a part of my life, and I'm just lucky for it,
He's
man.
the best. Yeah.
What a genuine guy, man. Just like so cool to have a chance to speak to.
Yeah.
And would always just be, so great to connect with. And it's great to see what's happened in the state. I said it, you look in the history of Utah football, it was a woefully underachieving program. Really was. But then Ron really starts to, get it to where it can go. Urban Meyer accelerates it. Kyle Whittingham sustains it, takes it through all these different eras. Like, it's a really special thing to see that happen. And college football and the health of college football in the state is in a really good place. Utah's not starting over and hiring the Alabama State, hot shot coach.
Bowling Green to respect Urban Meyer.
Yeah, right? But he came in and it was kind of uncertain.
Right, sure.
Turned out great. But it's not like, no, you're going with people who are proven. They just haven't had this title.
Yeah.
And it doesn't guarantee anything. I got it. But let's stop acting like, oh, my goodness. I mean, does Colton Swan even know how to coach defense? Is it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have news for you. Morgan Scally has really been around to see what it takes to manage a program and have high expectations. And to, Morgan Scally's not walking into this going, hey, guys, I'm learning. We're all learning. No.
He's ready for it.
He's ready,
Yeah,
guys.
he is.
So I all the time, my wife's a big Ute fan. I have a number of family members on her side, big Ute fans, and they've kind of had this, well, what's going to happen? I'm like, calm down. You're going to be great.
Yeah.
Okay? You're going to be fine. You're not going to just fall off and suddenly be this 4-win team and, oh, boy, what are we now? No, you're going to be good. Remember when Whittingham took over after Urban and they were getting smashed by Wyoming and stonewalled by New Mexico and shut out by UNLV? I mean, he had to really fine-tune some things to find his way of being a head coach. I don't think that's going to happen for Morgan.
Yeah, he's ready. He's been ready. He's prepared. Yeah. All right, we ran out of time, so we'll save the college basketball stuff for next time you're in studio. I know your boys are good. I know Michigan's good, man. Watching Arizona up close a few times, like, dude, this team is stacked.
They're number one. They should be.
They're awesome, man.
Yes.
They're good. But it'll be fun to see how it plays out the rest of the way. Feel bad for Al, our guy Alex Jensen, who enters a gym every night in a gunfight with a knife. He's doing the best he can, and Kevin's got that thing ticking. If you think BYU basketball is slowing down anytime soon, that train is going. They had a top 5 recruit in the building for the Arizona game. But give us the latest with anything going on with the Bees right now.
Yeah, man, getting ready for the season. We have a lot coming up. Banana Bowl will be coming up throughout the season. We're excited for that. So when the Bees are on the road, you still have a ton of other great events and stuff that's going to be happening. Single ticket game sales are going to be coming up here soon. I mean, before you know it, man, the ballpark's going to be up and going once again. And we're excited for year number 2 at the new ballpark and new manager, Doug Davis, who is stepping in. Our guy, KJ, got the promotion.
Awesome.
Third base coach now with the Angels.
Good for him.
So it's just been a great time, man. We're excited for the upcoming season. And, couldn't be more blessed with wonderful people in my life and, to be around sports every day. It's truly special and can't thank you enough for inviting me on and happy to come on when I can. And once again, I wanted to give a plug to the honoring of Elaine Elliott coming up February 14th, 2:00 game. Get your tickets for that and come out for a really special night to honor somebody who I think has represented so many good things, not just excellence in what they've done in their coaching history, but the influence they've had on so many people, myself included, and love working with her throughout our ESPN assignments through the year. So it's been a good time, man. It's a blast.
Well said, bud. Safe travels. We'll see you soon, okay?
Hey, we'll see you.
All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Keep it here on ESPN 700. All right, let's go. Drive at 5 time, Wednesday afternoon style. Congratulations, halfway through your work week and one day closer to the weekend. Appreciate you making us a part of your day today and every day here on ESPN 700. Program's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. That's me. I host the show. Porter Larson producing today. We've had a really fun show today, good show today. Started things off with Kurt Schmidt, the chief soccer officer for Real Salt Lake. For RSL fans that have been waiting for player movement, you got it today in spades. The reports are 6 players on the way, 6 new players on the way, notable players on the way that will fill U22 spots, international spots, a designated player, a new midfielder, a potential new center back, and a left winger. If you missed Kurt today and you're an RSL fan, go listen to it. The latest on the NBA trade deadline with our buddy Tim McMahon from ESPN. Could the Jazz get involved to help facilitate a deal? Is there a contender that is interested in Yusuf Nurkic? Have the Jazz done their calculation on the group of young players that we're still kind of questioning about whether or not they're going to be around for the long haul? Could any of them get got? We'll have to see. February 5th is the date, but the reports today from Shams Charania from ESPN is that Milwaukee is now listening to offers for Giannis, and of course a generational superstar who brought a championship to Milwaukee at the age of 31 will have a tremendous amount of interest. So if you missed Tim, that was good stuff. Craig Bolerjack is Stephen Wardell Curry is in town tonight. The Utah Jazz on the second night of a back-to-back are going to take on the Warriors after dropping a game last night to the Clippers. So we broke that down with Bowler, did some football with Bowler today as well. A lot of people reacting to the news that Bill Belichick and his 8 Super Bowl rings, not enough to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for his first year of eligibility. So a bunch of stuff going on with that. Tony Parks rolled by as well, which was a lot of fun. We bounced around a little bit, did some college basketball, some college football with Tony, went over some of the Big 12 stuff in the schedule. The Cleveland Browns have their head coach. It's Todd Monken, who was the offensive coordinator in Baltimore for the past couple of years, won a few national championships with Georgia, and was actually the OC in Cleveland about 2019. 2 NFL vacancies remain, the Raiders and the Cardinals. Once they make their decisions, 10 head coaches next year will be new coaches in pro football. That ties a record. So, busy day, a lot going on. Other notable situations in the world of professional sports. LeBron James is back in Cleveland, potentially for the last time. Who knows? So a lot of good NBA action going on tonight as the Lakers and the Cavs are doing battle. Bunch of good games in the NBA. Timberwolves, Mavs, as we were joined by Tim McMahon. Spurs, Rockets, late night as well. So some good NBA action on your television tonight if you're looking for something to watch. All right. Before we catch a break, we've got a new client on the show. Thrilled that they're on board because I work with them personally, so I can give you a personal testimonial, which is real. Here's what happened. A couple years ago, I made a goal. Just decided, hey, I'm going to get into the best possible physical shape I can get into as a grown-up, as an adult in my 40s. I'm just going to do it. We all make the goals, and January's about to come to a close. Maybe you made a New Year's resolution to lose a little weight or get back into shape or lose a lot of weight, right? Well, how you doing with those resolutions as we're about to turn our calendars to February? What happened for me is I started really changing my habits. I ate very clean. I was going to the gym. I was working out. I was trying to get back into shape and just get into the best shape that I'd ever been in. That was my goal. After a couple months, I got a little frustrated. I'm like, all right, not a lot of progress. How can I kind of improve and expedite the process to meet my goals where I wanted to be? Had a friend asked if I'd ever supplemented testosterone, which I had never had before. So he recommended Game Day Men's Health. They're offering you the same deal they offered me. Here's what happens. You go in for a free consultation. They take a little bit of blood, and then they sit down with you, and they go over your levels, and they say, okay, here's where you're good. You're okay over here, and here's where we could probably help you out to improve a little bit. For me, it was supplementing testosterone that I got on their peptides. Within 2 months after that, using their processes, I had met my goal. I was in the best shape I'd ever been in. Now, the best part is 2 years later, I've kept the weight off, and I'm actually currently still in the best shape I've ever been in, but it's as a result of their program. So it's a free consultation, okay? That's step number one. So schedule your free consultation at Game Day Men's Health right now at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. But here's the kicker. Same deal they're giving me. They're giving it to you. if you mention you heard me talking about it on the show. Okay, so free consultation, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Locations in Lehigh, Pleasant Grove, Cottonwood Heights, and South Ogden. And then when you go in there, say, I heard Spence talking about this on the show. They're giving you 50% off, but not just 50% off immediately, for the entire year. Why is that important? Well, it's still January. So you get 12 months of 50% off at Game Day Men's Health, which massive savings, makes this very affordable. I can promise you it works because I did it. So if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you want to get back into shape, but it's going to take a while, utilize this process because it absolutely speeds it up with our friends at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. All right, we'll catch a break. More coming up next on a Wednesday Drive on ESPN 700. All right, final segment of the program, Wednesday afternoon style. Halfway through that work week, one day closer to the weekend. The Jazz are in action tonight. Stephen Wardell Curry is in town, better known as Steph. How many people do you think know that his name is actually Stephen Wardell Curry?
And is it Wardell first?
It
I'm
is.
not positive.
No, I think you're right, actually, because I think that's his dad's name. People know him as Dell, but I think his dad's name is Wardell. That's right, actually.
Not positive, but Wardell Curry and Dell, who there's something. Listen, it's a lot of hard work. Let me be clear. Those guys put up more shots than anyone. But for your father, you, and your brother to all be within like the top 100 efficiency shooters from distance in the history of the league, and yes, Seth is up there in that regard as well. Something's going on there. Maybe in the water. Genetics, hand-eye coordination stuff. It's impressive.
I believe Mama was a good volleyball player, if I remember correctly. So I asked how many people knew that his name was Stephen Wardell Curry. Well, apparently I didn't know that it was Wardell Stephen Curry. Dell was a jazz man at one point and could really shoot it. Really, really good shooter. So the Warriors are in town tonight. The Lakers are in Cleveland, and that's notable because LeBron, I don't know if you knew this, but he's from Cleveland.
Yeah. The return home. And he's been playing like since his birthday, since he turned 48 or whatever. He's been averaging like 26, 7, and 7. Just ridiculous stuff.
I feel like he could do that at 52, quite frankly.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We may see. He definitely like eased into this season, and you could tell. But man, they're looking pretty good lately. And of course, when he's in Cleveland, usually ups his game a little bit.
Cavs have played better as of late as well. Our very own Dave McMiniman, who is he still going to?
Not joining the show tomorrow.
Have you reached out to him?
He's on Friday.
Oh, he is going to join us. Okay. He reported on NBA Today, the ESPN NBA show, that the Cavs would welcome LeBron back with open arms next year if he wanted to play one more year.
Of course.
Obviously.
They would sell out every game, and he's still playing like, I don't want to say all pro level, but maybe all star level.
Is he going to want a farewell tour?
In a way, for sure.
So you don't think this is it for him? You think he's back for another year? Does he have one more year on his deal?
I think so.
I think he does. I think that's right.
And he's always said he'd play through a contract. So
he got his kid a job, so I know that was a goal of his. All right, before we say goodnight, I have not kicked the tires with you on this as our resident young, old soul but young. You've always had a different opinion on the Utah BYU game than most. When Utah was in the Pac-12 and BYU was kind of wandering in the Valley of Independence, trying to figure out their footing, a lot of Ute fans were like, I don't really care if we play them. Of course, you made space for Michigan and Florida and such. But now you're back in the conference. You're going to play each other no matter what. The walking line from the Big 12 is we want to show off our best rivalry on a different weekend, so we don't want BYU-Utah final game of the season. Well, they put it on November 7th of this upcoming year, which pits it against Oregon, Ohio State, Miami, Notre Dame, Alabama, LSU, and Georgia, Ole Miss. Out of those 5 options, BYU-Utah will be the lowest rated game nationally on that day. I would bet that. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's a miss on the Big 12's part. I think they probably didn't know all of those games, right? They didn't necessarily have those schedules as we didn't going into it. But I just think that it's a miss in that you understand that not only are these teams both good right now and probably competing in the Big 12 next year, but it's just such a huge benefit to the Big 12 market, to the Utah BYU markets, to national college football guys tune into this rivalry, right? And you may be kind of losing out on that by putting it in that early November slot. I think it's a miss, but I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world, right? It's still going to feel like BYU-Utah weekend here in this market. I still think it'll get strong ratings despite those other games. It won't be number one by any means. But yeah, man, I think the Big 12 would be benefiting themselves by recognizing and understanding not only the stakes of the rivalry, but the stakes of the rivalry next year, in which both teams, I think, will be pretty competitive.
No matter when it's played, moving forward, it's always been a massive game, but now it really feels like it has not lofty, but meaty implications. Texas Tech, you can basically sharpen them in to the Big 12 championship game next year, and Utah BYU feels like it could be a virtual play-in game to play Tech for the right to go to the college football playoffs. So interesting stuff. All right, Porter, let's get out of here. What comes our way on a Thursday edition of the show?
On a Thursday edition of the show, we'll kind of go all over the map, talking football. Sam Bruckhouse and Max Brown. Of course, Max Brown, who Seattle kid who once lost his job to one Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Cade Madsen, pro bull rider, joins the program.
Nice. All right.
And then Gavin Peterson, who just came off a win over a top 25 program.
Would you like to do a pre-show meeting where you prepare me for the bull riding interview?
I can do that. He's a Utah kid. He's only 20.
Oh, really?
An actual young, and really good bull rider. But I think it'll be interesting.
It's all about core strength and grip strength.
Very much part of it.
Okay,
that's for sure. Gotta have some grit.
Oh yeah, gotta have grit, obviously. All right, so join us for a fun Thursday show. We will say goodnight, and a special thank you to Kurt Schmidt, Tim McMahon, Craig Bowlerjack, and Tony Parks. For any of the sound that you missed from the show today, you can go to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. That ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 full hours, check out our podcast page. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your show. So subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments, and give us all the stars. It helps. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Wednesday evening. We'll talk to you on a Thursday drive. And as always, you can find it right here on ESPN 700.